G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. How you doing, citizens?
And
Joined
I'm
today by Algared. How you doing?
and I'm Algared. Yeah, I'm alive. That's always the phrase these days. This week's been a bit of a nasty one.
Yeah.
Heart doesn't like me too much. It's racing a little bit.
I should have got you to send me that photo through before you're on camera. Did you manage to get it sent through or not?
Finally got through. I did.
We'll have to
did post them.
We'll have to show you what you've been doing. Hang on.
Yeah. In the interims of not feeling crap.
Mm.
And without rushing, if it works, it's the hope for escape from my current predicament.
Yeah,
that's probably the best way to describe it. But yeah, lovely to see you guys. Again, I'll be watching the YouTube chat on my phone. I can't really do Twitter on my current setup, which is oh so frustrating.
All right, I'm just transferring this from one PC to the other. That's what's taking a minute. Right. Then I'm gonna do the usual forte of things. So.
Yep. The bot starts.
I always leave bot to the last now because it needs a bit of time. But I'm doing the chat first.
Yep. Yeah. Put the chats up so you can see them. Yep.
Yeah. All right. But
it used to be I could read that chat as well, but not on my iPad.
Not on the phone. Do you want to tell people what you're actually doing before we kind of show the photo?
Yeah. So, as you guys know, I'm currently using an iPad and phone to do our streams, which is excruciatingly painful. After my computer died to a blackout or power surge or whatever it was, but it died. And so I thought, oh yeah, I'll just get a new CPU and I'll just use your case. But then I got a Noctua D15 cooling system, massive, great.
You had to get a new CPU cooler. Long story short.
Mother of a CPU cooler.
I picked that one. That's my fault.
And X said, "Oh, you'll need a new case." I'm, "Oh no, I need a new case." So got a new case. Because I had to get a new CPU, I went DDR5, which was always the plan, which meant new motherboard, CPU. So basically, a new computer. After getting the case, the CPU, the fan, the RAM, basically a new case, new computer. So I've been stripped down the old one and basically rebuilding a computer from scratch. So yeah.
Yep. And so what happened to be the case that kind of came up that I said that I nudged you towards, and why did I nudge you towards it?
You said it's Origin. That's what you said.
It looks,
this is cool. This is Origin.
It's like an 890 jump in a case here. Like I'll show you guys a photo and you'll see what I mean.
But of all the cases, it was actually one of the cheaper ones.
They're gonna see all your miniatures are showing, by the way, in this photo, Algared. You're gonna look super nerdy.
Sorry?
You're gonna look super nerdy.
I am super nerdy. I tell that to my students all the time. If I call my students a nerd, it's a compliment.
Yeah, so I don't know about people in chat, but I thought that was a very fitting case for Old Man Hurston. Nice wood paneling at the front. I thought that was very
personally, I think it needs more gold.
Yeah.
And more gold accents if it's Hurston, but but of the cases, that was actually one of the cheaper ones as well. So, and it was on special.
Yep.
And so, I'll be honest, it wasn't my first preference. I don't like gaudy and.
He wanted the black one, but I'd already ordered him a white motherboard. His OCD was going.
My motherboard. It's a steel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a steel legend. That's the name of the motherboard too. That's. That was also true.
It's a steal.
That was also true.
But and that was also I think on special at the time as well. So so both of those ended up being acquired and so
If you saw his last case, though, guys, you would think he was like this. Like, if you think he's overspending or whatever. Again, it was on special, and it's not a normal overpriced case. It's pretty standard for a case price. But his old case, oh my god, plastic piece of junk.
It was about
plastic
no,
piece
it wasn't
of junk.
plastic. It was not plastic. It was metal. It was just half the width.
Yeah, and it had a lot of plastic on it. Like it was one of those, like, you know, those people that don't give two shits about their case and they get the cheapest case they can. Yeah, this man. Yeah, this man.
I would, and I did say this to you. I usually go, I'm going here. We're going to save. What can I cut out? And my case was always the one of the first to suffer, and it was and I just get a case that would be big enough and be able to support all the parts.
You haven't taken the stickers off yet. Look, I can see the triangle sticker.
Yeah.
Amateur.
I know, because I'm still building. I only put the door on just because you were saying, "Oh, send me a pic."
Well, you were showing me yesterday where you're up to, so you've actually got the motherboard in the case now. So how much left do you reckon you got to go? Looks like you got the GPU to go in, and that's.
I got the GPU, the drives, the M2 drive, the old HDD drive.
Yep.
The cabling to attach.
What Windows were you on? Were you on Windows 10?
Windows 10. Yeah.
Just do the primary drive first before you turn it on. The others can be in there, but don't plug them in. It causes issues. So I've always just done the one drive, boot it up, and then add the others. Yeah.
I've had that before.
All right, cool. Go. Just pro tip. Yeah.
So
cool.
So that's on. I believe from memory that's on my the M2 drive, the SSD drive with the
Algared. They want to
M2.
They want to peel off video of the side case, so you got to record yourself peeling it, and then we'll post it on the channel.
Well, I'll be honest. I've got I've got the Rode mics, right? The wireless mics. Until recently, I still had the tags on them, and I needed to do an update.
Wow.
And I needed to do an update.
That's a long time back. That's a long time.
It is. X knows I've had them for ages.
Oh, we've had them for over 5 years at this point. They got like a 10-year warranty though. Do you know who else got them like this week? Paul got one. We funded him 400 Freedom units. We had some stuff over from Invictus, so that money went to Paul this time, and he got
and we've converted him.
Yeah. So he's got a Rode now, but we talked to him about that a couple of times because he wants to sit back. He doesn't want it on screen. He's sick of it being under his mouth with the arm in the way. Yeah. He's learned. He's learned.
He won't be able to go forward as much and do his
no, he can still you can still do that, but you can pull it in the screen and talk into it like this. Yeah. But he already had the arm, so he'd already partially converted him. And we were looking around for a thing to drive it, and Space Tomato had told me that he was using a Go XLR Mini, and I asked him a few questions about it, and he was really happy with it. And then when we were looking, the Go XLR Mini was on special, so we picked that up as well, and the Rode mics were on special that week as well. So we got a double whammy, and saved a bit of cash that way. So
yeah, but Rode, Rode really should be looking at us and saying, "Hey, we should sponsor these guys." I plug them so much.
Yeah, I know you do.
I really do love the Rode products. They are solid for Procasters and the Pro Masters, and their bigger mics all have 10-year warranty.
Yeah.
So they are a bit more pricey than you run on the mill, but the warranty is superb. And I remember you had one.
Yeah, I had one.
You bought a second-hand one ages ago.
Yep. And they did the warranty replacement for me and everything, which was kind of crazy.
And it died. They gave him a brand new one and a warranty replacement. Their service is second to none.
Yep.
I had a friend in the States who I talked into getting one.
Yep.
They were using an old Windows, and it didn't work.
Yeah. And
we contacted Rode, and they said, "Oh yes, that's because you're using this because it's an old Windows and it's not supported. The firmware's out of date. Send it in. We'll put the firmware in. We'll actually update it, make sure it's right. Bang, done."
The other thing, you're making me forget. Oh, Paul also got the package. I finally set the 3D prints to him. He got it yesterday. So we've got to get those all posted out to the boys in the States. So
that means that Paul has his version.
Yep. But
an Astro Historian version.
Yeah, so he will have an Astro Pub, an Astro Historian, and an Inforunners one, and I believe I've got ones there for Space Tomato as well.
Yeah.
For his logo, and I've got Inforunners ones for all the moderators as well. That'll go. All the ones in the States. Apparently, the ones in the UK have already been done. So yeah.
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 So we do have our branding out there.
Yeah.
Our brand recognition, we're running, man.
Right.
And is that because we're running to VMfang or we're running from?
Oh, it's sort of a weird tagline. I could never kind of get it to roll off the tongue though, like keep on running or don't stop running. But it doesn't really kind of fit what we do here. So I kind of just
no, we're kind of we certainly don't run through our questions. We meander, if anything.
Yeah. Yes. Right. We do have 4 questions. It's going to be a very short stream. So if you want to get your questions in, feel free to do so. We do have Invictus Gorn. We've got obviously going to have Alien Week coming up. I wonder if Alien Week is going to line up. You tell me your thoughts, Algared, but I think Alien Week will probably line up with June 20, where they're coming back at with ISC. So I'm assuming...
I would not be surprised if that was the case, if the way they go. It just makes sense. To put an event on or something as they're coming back, because it also gives them content. My question is just when the date of Alien Week and where it falls into that, what time they come back normally, and that could be the decider. But yeah, if you're looking for, if you're doing something and you're looking for a reason or a purpose or a goal, that to me seems like a perfect choice.
Yeah. So are you expecting, I'm hoping, I guess I will put it this way, for at least one new ship. That seems to make logical sense. We have not had anything new Alien at Alien Week in the last 2 years. I think we're kind of due. I think they are definitely kind of ramping up production. Now,
I think you're right.
I had an interesting idea floated to me during the week, and I want to float it back to you. And I know you even brought this up at one stage about the Fat Fury.
Yep.
I don't think it would be Mirai and sold at Alien Week because it's Mirai. For example, we had the Pulse sold just before. But I had someone float the idea: what if it's not Mirai at all? What if it actually is Cyan?
Well, that is an interesting thought, because there is, are Mirai actually picking up Xi'an design techniques, and you can certainly see it in their engine arrangements and stuff. So yeah, maybe a different Xi'an manufacturer, because I think the look is too different from both the manufacturers from Xi'an we've got at the moment. So that
agreed.
Be an
also
issue.
Wouldn't fit with a Polar, because a Polar only do small craft, and this is technically a medium. So unless you're going to expand a Polar's lore, I guess.
Yep. Well, Polar do the fighters, so if it's a heavy fighter, you could probably get away with it.
It says small craft. It says they do small craft, from what I read. I guess it could.
Yeah, anything's possible. But my thought would be, if they've got to expand the company lineup and the houses of Mirai, because effectively, the way not Mirai, but Xi'an, the way the companies work is they're basically, houses, or a bit like Toyota or Mitsubishi, that type of arrangement.
Yeah.
And each company and each house has a different focus. If they're bringing in a new company, they could do that just to expand the Xi'an lore and tech. But if you bring in another ship from another company, another manufacturer, but it's again a different style and a different look and a different.
Yeah. I think the other
thing you're adding in to a race that's already very slim in the terms of what the companies have in their style. So that would be my negative against that idea, but I don't dislike it.
My brain kind of goes to, I think, like if you're looking at like low hanging fruit type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of already got the hoverbike from them.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, well, again, I'm thinking Cyan here, right? So what if it's not Cyan? What if it's Banu, you know?
Yeah.
But my brain kind of goes to a vehicle instead, like a land vehicle. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. And as much as I mooted the idea that the the Mirai ship you could shoehorn it into Alien Week just as, you could shoehorn Mirai into the Alien Week just like the Ursa Medical and the Ursa, not the Ursa Medical, but the Ursa Luxury Transport was shoehorned into Invictus last year.
Yeah.
It didn't really fit, but you could make it fit. You could say, hey, because there's so much alien tech, Mirai pushing into that. Hey, look, why buy Alien when you can buy this? So I could see it, but I think I'd take the counter you gave and say, yeah, but it's human, not really alien.
And then I think the other thing we kind of need to talk about is the Raelian. I think it feels too short for a ship of that size to get, like, we know it went into kind of grey box at the end of last year, so it's only been 6 months. I think we'll probably get an update if we're hopeful at ISC, but I don't think we'll get the full shebang unless you think different.
No, I think we're, well, my view on ships. I want to see them, but I'm also very happy for a ship to not come out, because if a ship doesn't come out, A, it's because they're not happy with how it is, but B, it also means when it does come out, it actually gets brought out at the current standard of ships, which means they're better. So I'd love to see Raelian, but I think you're right. It feels, for everything that's in it, the size of it feels small. Now that could be just that they're getting better at putting everything in. The cutter seemed to imply that. The 400i seemed to show that. So maybe they don't need to be as big anymore. Maybe they've got miniaturization of components down to a fine art. But yeah, it does feel small. And that goes back to that.
I think the Saulian was like, I think they kind of did that first to prepare for the Raelian, unless you think different. Like it was like a build-up to get used to the styling.
I even though they're different companies, I think the idea was that to, like you say, start with a small ship, because we can't really do the Apollo again, because the Apollo Scout, because we can't do this. I know that the Saulian is the small version of a Raelian. So yeah, absolutely. Usually, get your new staff working on a smaller ship, give them the style stuff, get them thinking and developing the style guide, and then moving on. And that's why I think that big alien ship, or that big Fat Fury, isn't a new company from Giant, because you'd want to have something small so you can build up that design language.
Yeah. I think that's what if you kind of look at it, what the guy that did it, I don't know his name, I've forgotten off the top of my head, but he did the excuse me, he did the Fury, and then he went from the Fury onto the Saulian. It sounds a little bit like natural progression, like he's going up in size, unless you think differently.
No, well, it sounded even when we had the big changeover of staff, and we're saying we're retraining, we saw there was a lot more work on those small ships. We saw the cutters, we saw the vehicles, we saw the Furies, and then recently we've seen medium-sized ships, and now we've had a concept for another large ship. When was the last time you feel we've had a concept for a larger ship? Feels like ages.
Don't know if
a ship the size of a
senior moment, Algared, but there was this thing called the Iron Chad.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's the last time we had one. But before that,
it was literally
it felt like a long time.
It was literally would have been CitizenCon. That tends to be, well, we put it this way, we have not had a ship the size of an ironclad drop at an Invictus ever. It's always been I'm trying to think the last time I even saw a medium ship in Invictus, actually. Like they tend to be on the smaller side of vehicles.
And the next largest ship before that was the Galaxy.
Yes, there we go.
Might feel as a smaller ship, right?
Joe Zero got it. I was trying to remember what it was. Thank you, boys. And Chabawaki, yeah, Arastra. Arastra would have been the last big one we got. And then the year before that, we got the Galaxy, and the year before that, we got the Perseus. So it's been a pretty staple that the large ones come at Invictus.
All right, that was a senior moment on my part, that they have been putting out bigger ships. Just the impression I've got from the Ironclad was
I think you could tweak your response and say, when's the last time we really got a capital, right? Yeah. And that changes it quite drastically, because the last one...
That's really what
last one was the... well, and when I say capital, I'm talking bespoke capital component. Last one was the Kraken. So it's been a real long time since we've had a real big one.
And so,
but I think that's a lot to do more with the their unsurety over server meshing.
Yeah, but I think the fact that we've and in fact it's a case of unsure about how server meshing would go. The fact that they've gone back to that gives an indication that they're feeling more comfortable with that. So
yeah, sorry, Craig, on just make it clear, we were talking about when the last large ship came out. And it wasn't Invictus, it was at AIE or Expo.
But what I was actually really referring to
I know you were, but I'm
Ironclad to the capital. But I'm saying it for the chat.
Yeah, and I'm replying to what Craig on saying in chat. That's right.
Yeah. So the Ironclad is the first cap type ship we've seen for ages. Yeah, so I think that shows that the progression in terms of having staff able to work on that. B, I think it probably
again
you mentioned it, just that sense of surety over.
I'll go double check again, but I don't think there's any capital components on the Ironclad either, which made it really interesting.
Okay, it would, because it feels like a capital ship. It feels like a great Corvette. Is what I got a Drake Drake Corvette is what it felt like.
Just trying to find this. I've got it in downloads. Hang on, I'll go find it.
The Drake answer to the Polaris is what I see it as.
Oh, my cough has just come back. It's out of nowhere. Yeah, so looking at those components, Algared, they're all size. What is it? Hang on, I got it.
Yeah, I can't quite see the sizes. It's still too small.
I'm just trying to find the right ones. Hang on. So you got thrusters, turrets, pilot missions, tractor beams, stations. No, this is talking about stations. I want the stats. Where the hell is the stats?
More the same.
Oh, there you go. So down here, down the bottom. So you got a quantum drive size 3. Now size 3 is not capital. So I think it's size 5 is where the capital stuff starts. So
I can't remember anymore. But
yeah,
they've changed the designation so many times.
Yeah, but it's all size 3's components.
Yeah.
Well, small, medium, and large. Small, medium, large. 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
So capital would start at size 4 technically. 4? Yeah. So
I suppose another way to check would just compare the component sizes against the Polaris. And I know the matrix of lies is always 90% wrong, but there are times when they've recently updated something, you can use it to at least compare what they were saying to give a rough idea of sizes. So as much as it is often has errors and it's nasty and horrible, there are times when it also assists and works in your favor as well. So
yeah, so there you go. 4 is capital, 3 is large. Yeah, just, I'm pretty sure I was on the money, but I didn't hurt to check, does it? So
nope.
For a ship of its size, though, I honestly thought it would have been a Corvette. So I put this back to you, Algared. Then, if John Crew hinted at Drake Corvette, does that mean we've got another Drake coming?
It's possible, but I would think you'd have to look at the size of this, I think, against the Polaris and the other Corvettes. And if it's the size of those, I actually think it's the Drake version of a Corvette. And what they've done is they've downgraded the components as that level of balance type idea.
Well, it's the same.
Upgunned in weapons, but downgrading components, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, the Liberator, I'd have to go check the Liberator again, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't have capital components either. I find it, has he actually added the Ironclad yet? No, he hasn't. So he's had all these problems adding the Ironclad because they didn't actually release the Holo Viewer. They submitted it, but whoever did the website for some reason didn't up it to the website. But I can tell you, I think the best we can do for today is to use the Liberator, but the Liberator, it and it are on par, but that'll kind of give you a size comparison. And I would say that you know, this is the smallest capital, right? So you can see the bridge. There is a gap.
Yeah, there is a gap. And if the Ironclad is more a Liberator competitor, and John Cruz says or hints at or teases the idea, and he could just be trolling us because we know he's a big troll. Hey, John, are you doing a panel? Nope. 5 minutes later, where is he? On stage. Leaving space going, curse you, John Cruz. You know, so could he be trolling us? But yeah, if he says it's a Corvette, there's room for it. And that also ties in with what we've always heard them say. They want a ship of every size from everyone. So so yeah, and that means there's a lot more Corvettes coming. There's a lot more large ships coming, type of thing. You know, I'm sure if I sat here, I can go. Well, the two that come to mind for me are like Argo and Consolidated Outland, just off the bat. Crusader's another one. You know, you can start to look at those major manufacturers, and you quickly realize, holy shit, there's a lot of ships missing. It depends on whether, if the Corvette's the smallest capital ship, and they want to cap, you know, and they go, okay, we want a capital in every size or every company, then Consolidated Outland have a capital because they've got the Pioneer. Yes. If they don't have a Corvette, which is but they'd have a capital, they'd have a ship in that size. So
that's what I'm saying. So you've essentially got those really large capitals like Krakens, and this is the other thing. Like I think a lot of people have not. Well, even I for a long time didn't kind of see it this way, but like let's look at it, right? So I'll just delete these two because we can delete these and actually talk about it. So if I was going to look at it, I would say most people would go, you've got your Javelin, right?
Yep.
And I'd almost say this is in a different size class again, to the Idris.
Oh, it's like compared to the others, it's a Super Dreadnought. It's a player Super Dreadnought compared to an Idris or whatever. So,
and then the final one I would say that most people consider, and I'm probably sure there's some people getting at what I'm about to get at here, but
the capital ships we've got, the size difference in the capital range.
What I'm trying to get at though is there's more than this, right? You kind of put on it already. Yeah, there's one, the Pioneer. People don't look at it as that because it's not combat, right? So it's kind of this outsider, out of mind mentality. Yeah. But you've also got
90 jump. It's another one.
That's another one. Yep, exactly. And the one that I think most people forget about more than almost any other is the Orion.
Yep.
To me, that is clearly. God, I'm running out of space here. Man, these things are so big. But yeah, and I'm probably myself or yourself forgetting another one.
Endeavor.
No,
Endeavor.
They are technically.
Endeavor certainly is.
So this is what I was trying to get at. There is two sizes of capitals. There's like the mega big ones. These are the ones I'm talking about. And then you've got a size down where you get things like the Odyssey, the Crucible, what you said, the Polaris, and the one that pisses a lot of people off is the Reclaimer. But I think, again, when you put the Reclaimer next to the Polaris, it's not that bad, right? And I think you could probably argue that the Reclaimer is the smallest capital in the game. But yeah, so I think there's what I'm trying to get at, Algared, is the sizes with well, even just on the screen here, we've got two different sizes, all right? So you've got the medium capital, and then you've got the mega, or the capital. How else the fuck? How am I meant to say these? But you get what I mean, right? The sizes within
the super dreadnought capital size. Yep.
Yeah, my point, right? The sizes within the sizing is what I'm trying to get at. Because once you get up to capital, it's just ridiculous town.
So what you're saying is size matters.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. It's the motion of the ocean.
Okay.
We all know that. It's the motion of the ocean. Right. Yeah. So
the other one that I think is clearly one of those bigger capitals is the Endeavour. How could you forget the Endeavour?
That
you heathen.
That is to be determined, but I would agree with you on that as well. That is the other one you could put in here. But when you put it on,
you must recant on that statement.
But if you put it in now, Algared, you look at it how it looks now. Like, it does not look.
It's minuscule. It's tiny. Yeah.
Not really. It's still 890 jump size.
Help me.
So yeah, I would definitely say it falls into the capital class of things. But yeah, and I'm going to start to put some of the other ones here we've been talking about. So you can start to see there's sizes. Yeah, why not?
The size of the capital ships is yeah. There's almost that whole size difference of fighters up to large ship type things. There's almost that same differentiation in the ships that aren't recognised and known as capital ships because of the components or their size or other aspects. So
yeah. So you can, the point I'm trying to get at, by the way, you can tell the Crucible is going to grow in size too because it's the old metrics, not the new stuff. So yeah, but yeah, you start to see where I'm getting at here, right? Like there's just in capitals.
There's a massive range of size, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all I wanted to kind of illustrate here today. So yeah, trying to think of the other ones. The Odyssey, I think, is the last one at the moment. God, I can never smell it. Odyssey does not work with my brain. The spelling of it, it just it fails.
No, it throws my brain as well.
Yeah,
you're not the only one. Yep. Must be our Aussiness.
So yeah, and then you go off onto other outliers and stuff like that. So you'd be moving into ones that aren't considered capital, but you've got like the Nautilus and the Hammerhead and the Perseus, and you can clearly see they start to drop in size again. Yeah. Yep, holy. No, they're screaming in chat. They are not wrong. They are completely correct. There's another one that I totally forgot. Yes, absolutely. There's another one of the big mega ones. The whole E. That is definitely definitely one.
Well, you've also got. I think in the same category there, you've got the whole D as well. I think they're both massive.
Yeah, that would fall. Yeah, we can add that. That'd fall down into. Like that would come down into these ones down here. I'm just going to move the 890 jump over here so we can have this little border here. But you start to see what I'm talking about. There it almost needs another class, doesn't it? Like
and you look at that and you think, wow, there is a ton of capital ships. We don't think of there being that many capital ships, but when you start putting out all the ones that are actually capital, you go. There's a lot.
Well, just looking at the bigger ones, right? You start to see all the main manufacturers are covered there, except Argo and Crusader, unless I'm mistaken, right?
Yep.
And then you drop down here. Misk are stealing the lineup. Let's just be honest. Like they've got 3. They have cornered the market, right? So if there are 3 just from Misk, can you imagine if you went right? We'll give them the benefit of the doubt and just go 2. And now roll that out to every manufacturer having 2. And I think, actually, the other one that's missing from there, I just realized Anvil do also have a second one, which would be the Liberator.
Oh, yes.
Because the Liberator would be in there as well. And the Ironclad, actually, no, the Liberator. No, the Liberator doesn't, because it doesn't have the capital components. Oh, wait, no. And this is actually meant to be up here. So that removes that. Wait, I'm just double checking. That's technically a capital. It's a smaller capital. I think that, this one's in the middle ground.
Because if we know it's going to grow, we're not sure how big.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure once this thing grows, it's going to be like, well, what did you and I work out? It was very close to the Kraken.
It was,
it's definitely going to be it's definitely going to be bigger than 890 jump though. Let's put it that way. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
I know
at
one
moment.
Point, I remember Paul saying when he heard that when they were mapping it out, it was the size of a Bengal, but I think he meant Javelin. I can't see it being a Bengal size when they mapped it out, unless they were literally putting every room nose to tail all the way along.
Yeah, I think your little,
with no branches and stuff. But
I think your little theory of making the cab essentially as big as the Odyssey one seems to have a bit of merit, because again, once we worked it out, I remembered it was like, I think I can zoom in and have a look. Let me just have a look, because if I'm remembering this correctly, yeah. So this is 270, and I think we worked it out that it was going to be a minimum. I think it was 420.
Yeah.
It was, so this is 480. Yeah, it was 420. Is what me Grim and you worked out was 420.
And that was looking at the size of the cab and cockpit of the Odyssey versus the size and
that was a part of it, but it was mainly
the Endeavour.
It was mainly the hanger, the need to hold a Cutlass and the need to hold an Apollo, because they've now said that the hanger will hold an Apollo. So
and that raises the question: is it a dual hanger?
Yeah.
But then you can put a larger ship on and kind of combines the two, or is it two separate hangars? A bit like the 891's got two small hangars for the snub ships, but they've hinted, and I'm not sure whether it's more coming from a community, or more from CIG, but it was hinted that in response to the community's request that it might be able to take you land a 300 iron there, which was the next size up. So take that with a grain of salt.
It's only size 2s and 3s, so it's technically, it doesn't fall into the capital either. So the Liberator is actually not on that list, as I thought. So it's actually got smaller components in some ways. That's all size 3s. So
so the Liberator is the same category and size as the Ironclad.
It's very
based
similar,
on that.
Very similar to the Ironclad. So that's interesting. Yeah, so that technically is not on that list. So the other part, so I'm just going to remove it. The other one that I wanted to talk about, though, is obviously, like someone was mentioning in chat, they beat me to the punch, but looking at ships that are missing, right? And we tend to really think of capitals as combat vessels, is clearly the Anvil capital, right? Long-rumored. You can see why it's long-rumored, right? Like, you can see all the other guys have got theirs. Where the hell is Anvil?
And it's been a lament for a long time. And even when the Kraken came out, the lament almost got stronger.
Yeah.
And for years in Invictus and IAE, we were hearing the speakers at Olisar talk about this capital ship.
Let me throw this back at you then, Algared. With everything you and I are thinking about CitizenCon, so you've got CitizenCon, you've got the hype of Squadron that you and I are pretty convinced is coming this year. If you were gonna, you got the Polaris coming and stuff like that. How do you amp up? If I was ever going to sell the Anvil Capital, I know where I'd be selling it. Like, ride that hype train and chuck out an Anvil Capital.
Yeah. Is there an Anvil Capital in Squadron that they've kept hidden?
Well, I also think that's a
pop event. So that's possible.
I also think that's a part of why we haven't seen it. I think it is slated for one of the episodes for Squadron 42. I also think that's why they've been working on the Polaris, because I think that is also destined for Squadron 42, Episode 2. That's why they're working on it now, because they can put it in the game, but also they can roll it over to actually use it in Squadron. And I think it's I don't know, you tell me your thought, but basically from what I've seen, you move between capital ships in the campaign. So you might start out Episode 2 in a Polaris, and then either it gets destroyed or you upgrade or something like that into another one.
Well, we know just on the shorts, just on what we've seen, we know we start on the Javelin.
Yep.
Because we're talking to the captain. Yep. We know from the Morotor we get transferred to an Idris.
Oh, that's a good one.
Once we've got our wings.
Yep. Sorry. Go ahead. The Merchantman. So we forgot about the Merchantman.
Oh, how could we forget the Merchantman?
I don't know, but we did. But I would say that man, this thing walks. Nah, it's this one. It's over here. Yeah.
So we know we start on the Javelin. We know we transfer to the Idris. And then where do we transfer after that? Do we transfer, is the next episode more on the front line? Is it on a special mission where it's a smaller ship being sent out? Is it... and so you could see us being transferred and starting on different ships in the Squadron series. which makes sense. Like if you if you think about it, if you're doing a squadron series and you're focusing on a squadron, you're going to focus on the mothership and the ships of a squadron rather than, you know, being on a land base and building an economic empire or anything like that. So yeah.
So yeah, all I wanted to kind of show there, and like you can see, even we've struggled. Well, I've struggled. We've struggled. You know, you guys have had to help us. There was like 3 or 4 there that we didn't think of. And you start to realize this lineup is more filled out than you kind of expect. And it's not often that you put an image in front of you like this and you can actually appreciate the work they've done, but the work they've still got to do as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably a big thing. Often, and I say a lot of people, and I include us in this, we say, why haven't you done any work? Why haven't you done work on this? Why haven't you done... And we forget to look at all that has been done. And I think that's also one of the advantages of CitizenCon. Like CitizenCon is that big announcement. It's, hey, this is what we've done. This is what we've achieved. This is where we were. This is where we're at. And it inspires the teams, because the teams don't always see everything in together. They just see their little microcosm. And then we also see that as well. So yeah, I think that's right. It shows we've got that where we've been and where we've come, and yet, as you said, there's a lot more to do and a lot more to complete. So yeah, it's huge.
Someone asked me to separate it into not in-game, and well, this one's, I'm going to put this on the borderline because I think, well, honestly, if we do it that way, right? These two, we know they're ready. They've been ready for a long time, right? We know this is the only real one. And then if we do these,
the Odyssey is not, the whole D is not.
Yeah, and then these two are just about to be. So if the ones at the bottom are in, ones at the top are not. But yeah,
I don't know. Well, the whole D is not. The whole C is in. The whole D is not.
Again, they're at the top of their section. So toward, well, it's that way because I got to do it opposite. But yeah, it's towards that. Yeah. No, it just shows it in a perspective. A lot of work to go, but still a lot to add as well. So we've got room for new concepts. So there's still new. Oh, god damn it! That's another one we forgot. Yep. Good find. Thanks for pointing it out, you motherfucker. Right. We just keep forgetting them. But this is a good point. No, the Arastra. We forgot the Arastra. So yeah. Well,
we talked about it.
Actually, no. Wait, no. This person is wrong. It is not, because it doesn't have it doesn't have capital components. You are wrong, sir.
It might look it. But I suppose at the end of the day, it also depends where CIG decide it goes.
True.
Like the current sizing has been capital components is their category.
I need to check something too. Whole D Star Citizen, because I don't even know if this is wrong one. I don't even know if this has got the components. Let's have a look. But again, whole D probably is out of date, not updated. What do we got? No, I don't want that one. I want this one. I'm gonna look at propulsion. Yep, capital. All this is capital. So whole D is capital. All right, cool. We can confirm.
See, you should have just trusted me.
No, it's not about trusting. It's about double checking, because I doubt myself. You're the stats guy, not me. So I don't do a lot of that stuff. I just focus on gameplay.
I don't delve into the stats like the absolute micro figure. That's usually the size, the components that are on the ships, rather than
the reason
how they perform and stuff.
The reason I don't do that is because they're all changing, and they've been changing the last damn 10 years, and they're going to change again. Well, so I'm going to wait till they settle, and then I'll worry about learning them all.
That's why I don't worry about the actual often the factual number details, like from Urkel or something like that, but just go the size. Because the size of the components generally don't change.
Someone's making me doubt myself, so I'm going to go double check the Odyssey as well. So maybe I'm wrong here.
I thought the Odyssey had a capital component.
No, they're all size 3s. Shit, no, I swear there was a single size. Alright, maybe we've got to delete the Odyssey.
I thought there was a capital component on it, but no, I think they're right, because it used to be that's kind of why I always viewed it as like the
Size 4, capital cooler. Bang! See, I was right.
Okay.
It's got a capital cooler and a capital shield.
I always looked at it as being the size of a carrack, and you pointed out, no, it's bigger, and you showed it, and then I think we looked at components, and there was that. Yep.
I'll double check the Crucible.
The second you go bigger components.
So people in chat are saying the Crucible is not capital, but I'm pretty sure from remembering back in the day it was Algared, unless you remember different. Oh shit, maybe it's not. Size 2, size 3, size... No, it's not. Not according to this. But I would also argue, you put this out to me, Algared, that thing's definitely going to grow.
It's definitely going to grow.
Yeah.
It's the old metric. We know it's got to grow because it's actually the metric when they were using the Hornet that was the wrong size. So,
it also
the wrong size.
Yeah, I was going to say it also gives them Anvil a capital ship, and then all they need is the bigger capital.
Yeah, and the Hornet they used on the Crucible is the same one I believe they'd used on the Idris, which caused them to have to increase the size of the Idris.
Read the comment by J Mayhem in YouTube.
I can't, it's too small, and I've got my stream questions up.
So J Mayhem says it will grow like Algared's hair.
That doesn't grow at all. That's a worry. And at that point, so you were wrong.
Best comment, I think, of the year. If I had a clap sound, I'd be playing.
But I think at that point, he's wrong. Because we know it has to grow. It has to grow just because of the size of the. It has to fit a Hornet. That's the bare. If you go the absolute bare minimum, it has to do. It has to fit a Hornet and be able to close its canopy.
I think I haven't done it in a while, but the last time we did it wasn't quite double, but it got big enough that you could go, yeah, it's in league with the other ones that are there. Like it got. I don't want to pull it up again, but we went through it all, and it was... Yeah. It takes like 15-20 minutes to go through it just to get to the rough sizing. Because you got to go look at lots of all these old documents. So the things like... There's the Nautilus, actually. The Nautilus is only... I'm pretty sure the Nautilus doesn't fall into that. I'm
pretty certain the Nautilus
and the Hammerhead
is... The Hammerhead and the Carrack, they're all in that same range.
Yeah, so we're just looking at the capital ones, and when you look at stuff like the Nautilus and the Hammerhead, they are the size down. They are, and the Perseus, they're in the large. Now, that's what we're talking about right now. Is the Crucible a large or is it a capital? And again, if it's a large right now, and it's going to grow.
Yeah, and given that it was always the premier repair ship, the ship that was sent to repair javelins and Idrises. So it's basically your mobile. In fact, I think they even sold it or hinted it. There was a mobile shipyard. That was how they the original concept was you'd have a couple of these that would go up to a javelin, and they'd actually build a scaffold around where they were working. That doesn't say small. That or large, that says that matches the size.
So to exactly tell you what we're talking about, what actually sets a capital component apart from other components is they're integrated, or they usually have and I'm not sure it's every capital component, but every ship has at least one bespoke component. Now, the two that I can point out to right now that are in-game, and I'm sure it's going to happen with the Idris as well when it comes in, and the Javelin. But if you go into the 890 jump, it has bespoke engines. They go down the side of that, the hangar bay there. They're very long. You know the ones I'm talking about, Algared, don't you?
Yep.
And then what's the other ship, Algared? Do you know? There's one more in here.
The Reclaimer.
Yep. And what is the bespoke component? Do you remember?
From memory, it is the power plant.
That is correct, sir. 2 points. But yeah. So again, I think the main components they seem to use are power plants or engines at this point. But looking at the Odyssey, it could be a shield. So they can make it whatever you want. But what that allows them to do is kind of balance it to a particular place where they want it. Now, to give an example, the best example at the moment is the Reclaimer, believe it or not, right? You cannot put 3 of the best shields, right? And it's arguable what the best shields are, but it was the military ones, right? You could not put 3 military shields on the Aegis Reclaimer because it didn't have enough power to power them. You could put 2 and then one other one. So I just found that interesting because it stops it becoming this mega tank. So you can nerf it positively or negative in any way you want. And it's the same thing with this. This is meant to be the fastest capital of the capitals because of its bespoke engine. So you can dial it up so it goes faster or slower. So they can, again, it allows them to balance, and they go, oh, well, it's bespoke. We can do whatever we want with it, right? So it is a balancing thing more than a, making it special thing.
But it's also fits in with what they've said about those capital components. You need a dockyard, but basically to repair them. You can't just swap them out. They're so big, you've got to go and take this massive component out and put a new component in. But it's not just a. Well, I'll do this in my hangar.
I'll leave a little food for thought to you too, because I thought about this a couple of months back, but I haven't really talked about it because we get sidetracked and stuff. But what's it going to be like when you come to repair these things? Are you going to have a specialist that just that knows how to repair 890 jump engines?
Yeah,
because it's going to be. You got to assume it's going to have other drawbacks, and is it just like every other engine in the game, but it has different stats, or is it literally so bespoke that it defines the actual ship in repair terms?
Does it mean that if those engines are dead, they've been destroyed? You can't just swap them out and put a new one in.
Yeah.
That things like the SUV have their hallmark because they're actually pulling those ships back to port where they can be repaired. Yeah. You could have the engines on an 890 jump dead, destroyed. Whereas you get a power plant on an 890 ship destroyed, you could exchange the power plant and you're good again. But those capital components, those bespoke components that get wrecked. If you can't repair them in the verse, even if you got the parts, because you can't pull them out, how do you get them repaired? You lug it back to port. And so or you get a crucible work team working on them. But it really does open up a whole can of worms, I think.
Yep. All right. We should probably get rid of some questions, Algared. What do you think?
Yeah. That Thursday took us a whole hour.
Yeah. But it was, I think it was worth going.
We're done.
Yeah, I think it was worth going over, though, because, again, it's not something that you lay out like that. And seeing it in a single image like that, it is daunting to see what they've got to do. But you also realize they've done more than you thought. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah. Like, I don't often sit there and pull out all the capital ships and go, wow, there's a lot. But that's probably the first time in ages I've done it, and I'm going, wow, there's a crap ton of capital ships there.
Which is why I did it, because I was doing it the other day, and I kind of went, we need to show that. Right, first cab off the rank, Algared. Where are we? Oh God.
Is Tangent Revolution.
You want a
very interesting name for the
Before you do that one, should we do the last one that didn't get answered last week?
Oh, we should.
Yeah, Jag Hiroshi. So do that one.
Jag Hiroshi popped in a question that was, will CIG retire the Crucible before it gets out of JPEG? They may retire the current design of a Crucible as they bring it to its actual flight-ready presentation.
Yeah,
but I don't think the Crucible gets retired.
I think it's definitely go have a bit of a reconcept. Like, I don't think it kind of really needs to rotate anymore like it was originally planned. But we'll see. Expat is rated. Whoa, Expat just rated us. Woo! Hey, Expat.
Hey, Expat.
How you doing? You just missed our big discussion. We're just taking our first question for the day. We were talking. We're talking about this.
No, it's not our first question for the day. It's our last question from last week.
So what we did was we were laying out all the capital ships and showing how there's a clear size difference between the two, and it just kind of shows you how much work they've got to do and how much they've done. So we just found that interesting. So yeah.
So that little summary there took an hour to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, like 50 minutes to go through, but yeah. Well, we kept forgetting them too, didn't we? So yeah.
Yeah, but lovely to see you join us for a little bit.
Yeah, you can jump in chat, voice if you want, and have a chat with us if you would like. More than welcome to join.
Pop in. Help us take a couple of questions. We might be faster.
They can watch on YouTube.
Anyway.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, you were talking about the Crucible. So yeah, the Crucible's going to get a rework, and we'll go from there.
And like in terms of, do they retire it before they even put it in game? It can't get retired if it's not in game. It just gets the concept reworked and changed. So
yeah. I just dragged her in. I don't know if she's audible yet. She'll talk when she needs to or wants to. Right. We'll do another question then.
So our first question for this week is the Tangent Revolution one. It's a silly one. It's just how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie roll center of a Tootsie Pop? I don't even know what a Tootsie Pop is these days. So
I haven't had a Tootsie Pop in probably 30 years. Yeah. I don't know. It's been too long. All right, let's go on to the next one. Jock Club says, how are you boys doing? Hopefully feeling well. How you feeling?
I'm alive.
Yep.
I'm alive.
My eyes are... I've got something in my eye, and it's just... Yeah. And I've had a really bad... My asthma's reared its ugly head this week.
He has. He's been... A couple of times we've been chatting, he's been coughing his guts up, basically.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, yeah, I'm not as comfortable. And he's there going, I'm dying.
Yeah, so where I live, they have because it's a fairly regional area, they still burn a lot of wood smoke, and it's a valley, so it just kind of holds all the wood smoke and makes it very hard to breathe. So yeah.
I love the smell of wood smoke, but I don't like the effect it has on my breathing.
Yeah.
Nova 42.
Just join, Expat. You can drag her in. You can just join whenever you want, Expat. Don't you have the ability just to join?
Oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah,
hey, lovely to hear you.
Technical on my side.
Oh,
how are you guys doing?
Yeah, you have to excuse Algared. He's got a bit of lag, and you've got a bit of lag too.
That's
okay. Is where you are as well. So yeah, yeah, we're all right. We're just talking about how my asthma and Algared's obviously having his health stuff as well. But what about you? How are you doing over in Dubai?
Yeah, doing good. Just been enjoying, the fact that the free fly is now over, and yeah, what a different verse we live in when the place is not nearly as busy. My goodness.
when all the free people leave. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it wild? Like how suddenly just the whole landscape just shifts and changes suddenly.
Yep.
You know, as soon as that free fly turns off.
Yeah.
But I think it was good. I think it was good this time, right?
It's probably every time becomes more stable than the last. Let's put it that way. Absolutely.
It was the worst free fly I've ever experienced.
Well, you didn't have he didn't have a PC. Actually, I'll show you this Expat. Tell me if this is not the most fitting PC case for Old Man Hurston you've ever seen. So he's currently rebuilding it, but does that not speak to? I don't know if you can, I'm streaming, so you should be able to look at the stream. But yeah.
Oh, that case is my favorite case.
Oh, well, there you go.
I would love to build a computer in that case. I've got the other version of that, which is like the one before, which doesn't have the wood on it.
Yeah.
But that is a sick case, and that is you're gonna be able to make a good PC in there. Yeah, definitely an Old Man Hurston case because I mean, in my opinion, it's the only one that's got some style and class, and Old Man Hurston has style and class.
So yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, well, X picked that one and said, "Oh, it's an Origin case. You need to get that."
Yeah.
And I'm going, nah.
He wanted to get it in black, but
the
motherboard had white, so then he had OCD fighting him. So it's kind of funny.
It did.
Nice. So is this a new computer that's coming into the house? Is it?
Well, he's on the phone currently right now. You notice how he's actually quite clear today. So he's not on his normal internet connection. So he's talking to us through mobile data, and it's made him heaps clearer. But yeah, he's been on the phone now for almost a month now.
3 weeks.
Yeah, getting there. And it would come at the worst time too, when we're about to get ready for CitizenCon and stuff like that. So it's really stretching his budget quite substantially.
Yeah. So
but you know what?
What?
it's an investment in your future. Like literally, like you're gonna
Oh,
play
look,
Star Citizen. It's gonna be the best you've ever played it. You know, you'll have a good time.
Yeah. I was always looking at updating a computer. I knew my old PC was starting to was on its last legs. It was 7-8 years old, and I was getting to that long in the tooth for age. And I'd even been saying
6 years, wasn't it?
CitizenCon.
6 years?
Oh, 6 or 7, yeah. 6 or 7, yeah. And I was saying after CitizenCon, I'll update because I knew there were new components coming out, and I'd always said when I need to update, I'm going DDR5, which means on new motherboard arrangement, and that meant new CPU, and that meant new, so.
We were worrying though because it started blue screening and then they became more rapid, and then it just one day didn't turn on.
Yeah, I'm in a similar situation with you where I mean, I was on a DDR, like a different DDR, like I'm DDR4, and I want to go to DDR5. That's going to mean the whole new motherboard and all that kind of stuff. So I'm holding in for dear life that the next Intel or whatever generation comes out, and it's not like crazy expensive and impossible to find, and maybe that'll be my next one.
Did you see what they announced literally yesterday though? And I felt so bad.
What did they announce?
So AMD are announcing their new CPUs at Computex in like this month, like next month.
Yeah.
Well, for us it's June.
For
us it's June, right? So it's the morning of June, June the 1st. But literally this month, sometime they're announcing them at Computex, which means probably if Algared could have lasted a month, he could have got the new one.
Yeah.
No, but no. But that's not true. That's not true. Because let's face it, it's gonna get distributed in the US first, and then here, and then there, and then there, and then maybe when do you think it hits Australia?
No, we actually tend to get it exactly the same time as the US because we are closer than any other Western nation.
I see.
So we get stuff. One, we're smaller, but two, we're closer. So it's just really easy to send stuff to us because they can, generally by ship it takes at least a month to get to the States. It takes less than 2 weeks to get here.
But and when it comes to things like Macca's, we're actually the test venue.
Yeah.
We get Macca's Mac Cafe was in Australia. It was launched in Australia.
Yeah. And then even within Australia, if you want to get all fancy and test bed Algared, they test a lot of stuff in Tasmania before they even test it in Australia. We got all the Macca's stuff before you got it on the mainland, believe it or not. So yeah.
I was friends with one of the old Macca's reps who if I recall correctly, or one of the old Macca's top managerial staff who, if I remember correctly, was instrumental in bringing Mac Cafe.
My mum's best friend's sister is an owner. I'll leave it at that.
Is an owner of what?
Owner of Macca's. So there's only 15 owners of Macca's in Australia, and she's one of them.
Oh,
so,
wow.
The guy I knew was one of the top execs, so...
Yeah, she's really rich now.
Yeah.
And you don't actually...
Yeah. Should we take a... Oh?
I was going to say, Macca's is kind of weird because they tell you that they want to build a new one and you pay for it. So it's this really weird thing where you pay for it, but you don't get to redesign them or anything. They do it all. It's very...
It's kind of a franchise that you own but don't own.
It's really, really weird. Anyway, so you were going to say, Expert?
But anyway.
No, I was going to say we should have a. I'm happy to stay for 3-4 questions if
sure.
That's cool. And then
we're happy for you to stay as long as you like.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, cool.
But you've probably got some. You've been streaming for a while though, because I stopped watching you at about 11 p.m. So it's been at least 8 hours. Put it this way: just after I left, you had just found the sunglasses in the Freelancer.
No way!
Yeah.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I was looking.
Nice that we can find those. By the way, I've been hunting high and low, and it's really I've noticed that the just like a side topic about the missions. I've noticed that the mission availability is very different to how it used to be, and some missions are not showing up on servers for me, and other times they are, and it's very inconsistent. And I don't know if that's just because of how they've changed the visuals. Or maybe it's other things afoot, but there's a lot of missions that I used to be able to get that I don't get anymore. So it was pretty awesome that I managed to find that.
Yeah, it's going to change again.
Cool.
once they actually get the proper. Have you read up on what the actual plans are for the mission system? Like how it's all going to be very dynamic, and you can do the same mission, and it literally has multiple different endings and all that type of thing.
I mean, it sounds cool. I mean, personally, I quite enjoyed this Xenothreat thing. The Xenothreat initiative. It was quite cool. I like that idea that you kind of do missions and unlock things. That was a cool thing. I like the idea of, like, you know, going into the bar. And by the way, I have to say this. I went back to the past yesterday with my stream, and I opened up the YouTube and I scrolled all the way back to the very beginning of Star Citizen, and I've started watching all the content that was there in the very, very beginning. And I'll tell you what, I am super impressed at this community and the content creation community and all that kind of stuff. They really held the line. Like in the very beginning there, the content creators and everything did such a, like, considering what was available to them at the time, it was amazing. It was amazing.
How far back did you go?
To see that. I went to the first time we saw Jared on screen.
Oh,
so
you didn't go all the way back then.
But I did notice on YouTube recently, there was an update that I saw where they put Wingman's Hangar up in the Star Citizen folders.
Yeah, you need to look up Wingman's Hangar, because that's where it all started. And
so Wingman's Hangar was the first. That was like the first around the verse, or you know, with CIG reps would talk and tell you what's going on.
Jared came much later.
Yeah, so I watched the original pledge videos, the original, like, Kickstarter videos.
Yeah.
And then I moved on to, like, okay, and I had a little look at the content, right? Then I, you know, went to the first Jared video, and then we moved on. You know, the evolution of Salty Mike, for example, was quite funny. Twerk something, I think.
Twerk 17.
Twerk.
Yeah, Twerk 17.
Yeah.
And I really, by the way, I really liked how CIG were featuring the content creators and featuring the different content from around the verse, whether it was images, or I guess we could say that was almost like the community hub that they have now, but in a video form.
Yeah.
You know? And wow, you can, the live streams were sitting there in the office, very raw, you know, hours of them just sitting in front of a camera, almost like they're just like your friends. Right?
Oh,
and they're just talking
the old
to
lunchtime, the old lunchtime hanging. They'd literally, once or twice a week, you'd literally have them sit around during a break and just chew the fat and joke and hold up pictures and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
The other one you do want to...
We are in such a different place now, though.
I just want to show you this. I can't actually go back to the very first episode and actually get a date, but this is what I did before we did Inforunners, and this was Star Signal, and I can't even remember the date it started, but this was, I think we were the second or third podcast to get off the ground, and we quickly became the biggest. And
wow.
And then that way by its wayside, and then we came in Inforunners and went from that. But this is all before Algared. Algared wasn't on this one. So yeah, no. But that was back with Chris and Colby, I think his name was, because he's renamed. Wow. He had to rename himself because he got he had a stalker, believe it or not. But yeah, anyway, that's another story.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Last night we ended with the video, and I'm very curious if any of you guys were in the audience for this or watching this live and singing along. But last night we ended with the clip of Happy Birthday.
Yeah,
we'll watch I was there watching it live, and the stream cut off.
Yep.
Because it broke.
Oh my goodness!
So for us, it had a copyright. Back then, Happy Birthday still was copyrighted. So they were halfway through singing the song, and the whole stream died because YouTube claimed it.
Wow.
Yep.
I was fascinated by the amount of progress that they made in such a short span of time between Chris Roberts sitting there in front of his computer showing you how the interior of the retaliator was going to work.
Yeah.
And then actually seeing that is the same retaliator that we had all this time, and looking and seeing all the interiors and the exteriors of these ships that haven't changed in years. The F7A, looking how it did, etc. It was amazing. Like, it was so hands-on.
Yep. But that's one of the things X and I say all the time. Like, people say, oh, this is the case. And we say, yeah, back then they said this, and it hasn't changed. The depth of a spaceman concept hasn't changed, really, from what they said way back then.
Yeah. But we get people that say that against us all the time, like, oh, they haven't talked about it 10 years. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's changed. I think the other thing that I'd like to point out is this started in Texas, kind of moved to LA. You know, they wanted certain people to move out. There's a lot of people that started out on this project. They don't, well, for example, Eric doesn't, the guy that does Wingman's Hangar, he doesn't work for the company anymore. He went on and made another game, and that game's been released. You know, like...
Oh, it was just sent to.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
it was really eye opening. Just going through those like the early days and how 10 for the chairman and everything and all.
Oh,
how
they were great series.
Involved and forward and in your in your home they were, and And I really like that. So I really like that CIG. That's really cool. I feel like now the ISC is more of like a marketing thing that like we're paying to be marketed.
Absolutely.
To, and it's a lot less development focused in that we don't see the tools anymore. Like, it was amazing to see, like, literally Chris is sitting there at his computer with code up on the screen. And we're seeing the retaliator in the engine program.
A lot of that we've got to blame ourselves, though, because there's the one we always talk about was the MISC freelancer cockpit. So that's where it really all began, was people started, up until that point, they'd post everything. Right? They talk every little bit of thing they'd worked on. And it was really a hallmark for them because they realized they couldn't share everything with us because we were backseat developing. And what happened was that they basically were saying, we don't like this, you need to change it, it looks shit. And it was just a couple, it was like 2 guys, right? And there was other people there going, don't do this, they will stop sharing shit with us. And they took 2 days to redo it. They took the 2 days to redo the cockpit, and literally it was worse. And I said, and everyone
said, oh no, that's crap.
And so
you were right. The other way was better.
So they waste 2 days of development trying to change it to a way that these people wanted. Right. And again, and I think that's when CIG realized there was a loud minority. Because if you go back, or you can't get to the chat anymore because it was on the old forums. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's still an ongoing thing today, especially on Spectrum, and especially not having downvoting arrows. You have a very loud minority. There needs to be a mega push from our community to get downvoting arrows on that thing, or it is never going to change, right? And we are now coming up to the point where Squadron is about to release. You are about to have a mega influx of people coming into this game, and if they don't have the downvoting arrows in there before then, this community is not going to grow the way they want it to grow, because most people go into Spectrum, they see it for what it is after a while, like it can take them a couple of weeks, and then they never go back. Because it's just a sea of shit, right? And if you think about it, if you're trying to filter things out, how do you filter them out? You can't. If there is no way to push stuff down so the good stuff rises to the top. It's literally separating the wheat from the chaff, and you can't do it. It's just impossible.
You're either blocking it, or which makes it look like the censoring, or you leave it. And
and you can tell it's required.
Spectrum these days.
You can tell it's required because everyone does that facepalm emoji, Algared. You know
I only use Spectrum these days for the official announcements. A lot of the discussion I don't tend to get engaged in.
It's that old my mum was a teacher too, like Algared is, right? And Algared, you'd be able to relate to this as a school teacher. It's always just 1 or 2 people in the class that ruin everything for everyone, and you've got to keep the whole class back at recess type of thing, because those 2 people won't own up to it, and nobody will dob on them because they don't want to get in trouble with the bully. right? So it's that whole thing again, and that's why most people stay silent.
The thing is, it started relatively simple, and you know, and then it turned into a game for so many different types of players and different types of people. So you know, you're never going to get like a parody across like such a wide spectrum of people.
Well, even look at Squadron 42. If you look at the, if you go back and look at the discussions, and if you could read the old threads, the discussion about, we'll get a couple of the, you know, one of the stretch goals, we'll get a couple of old actors to come in. And fans started, Mark Hamill, John Rhys Davies, and then what if you could get Julian Anderson? What if we could get? And CIJ's went, hey, you know, if you guys want it, we'll do it. But the classic video, and I saw it as I was scrolling through the ones the other day, was the building the space whale on the Star Citizen Live, and they went through. They had the managers, John Rhys Davies, and I think it was I can't remember the other guy. But they went through and they were going through. Okay, if we're building a whale, this is what we do: is we allocate time, and if the audience says, do this, yeah, okay, no worries. And then they start mapping up the time, and the audience is going, oh, no, we don't need that. We don't need it. Because the more you added, we want space whales with babies. Well, that's going to add 3 weeks.
It would be another good one to do, wouldn't it? Just to update people. But yeah, again, I think the other thing that you probably noticed too, Expat, as well as yourself, Algared, if you kind of look at this thing on a scale, it has taught so many people about how game development actually works.
Oh yeah.
That has probably been all said and done. The server shut off and this game is no more. That'll be its true legacy. Just how it taught the world how games are actually made and how much actually goes into them. And it's been bare and naked since the beginning. That's the other scary thing.
Can I say that I was one thing that stood out to me, right, was that like there was a demonstration at Gamescom. Now, I didn't realize this was like such a small space of time, but there was a demonstration at Gamescom that was showing like the first iteration of something, right? First flight and all this kind of stuff. And then SitCon was not long after, roughly the same year. Right,
it would have been,
and they were, and then it was the first multi-crew gameplay going on the Connie, leaving Port Olisar, you know. And I was just trying to put myself there and just going, wow. I mean, from somebody who backed this as the Kickstarter, you know, to seeing what they'd done in such a short space of time, like a year or whatever it was, you know, I'm not surprised everybody went on the ride. You know, now in the videos right now, I haven't got to the dark. Like I'm gonna watch more, and I haven't got to the dark times yet. Right?
Did you actually?
I got to Squadron 42 logo coming up, and it's saying 2016.
Yeah.
And then you know I played some funny music because well, you know, and I kept thinking like if you were sitting there watching this. And you were in the audience and you'd seen how fast they'd made progress, there would be absolutely nothing. You could not fault anybody in that room for believing that it was going to be out next year. And you know what I mean? You couldn't.
But what changed was people to plan it. And they just went, we can do better. You only get one chance to make a first impression. Let's do it now. Because they thought it was, 5-6 years away, and they we've got the people behind us, they're funding us now, let's redo it and just add to what we have and expand, and that's what they did.
And there was another factor that came into that was around the same time they picked up a Frankfurt studio.
No, that was
the guys who
was a couple of,
from
that was a couple of years prior, but they are the people that made it. Yes,
but the CryEngineer type guys that when they first started, they came on board, and they weren't in the Frankfurt office, but they were starting that studio.
Yeah.
And they came from CryEngine, and it was as if Chris had said, show us what you've got. And it was like, freedom.
Yeah.
And
well, they wanted... there's a story that goes further than that, because when they were at Crytek, they were talking about doing this, and the people at Crytek are saying, we won't use that with the games we're making, and they kind of shut it down. And so when they came into this, I think at some point Chris has gone, just you guys do what you want. And so they did it in their own spare time and then brought it to Chris because they knew that that's what he wanted to do. And that's when they dropped that People to Planet video. And you can see where it all lines up. You can see the thought process. It's like, well, do we release this now and it's not going to be at the same quality as what this could possibly be? Or do we we know we've got enough money that we can ride it and I think even from their point of view, COVID was unforeseen. Let's be honest, that stole 3 years from almost all of our lives, let's be honest, right?
Full on COVID was unforeseen.
Yeah.
Like I know that Chris was going to, before COVID hit, Chris was planning, but the whole family, they were going to go to Manchester to close out Squadron.
Yeah. So if you look at it, we would have probably got this game in 2021. And when you kind of do that, you go, it's 4 years.
Just to play advocate here.
It's 4 years past what they said. And when you look
COVID came in, I understand that COVID came in, right? I understand that obviously had an effect and whatever. But at some point, there was a trajectory change.
Yeah.
Like they put the thrust, like let's say, you've got the trajectory, we're going to go up and then we're going to come down and we're going to land. At some point,
you got to realize, though, how much of an effect COVID would have on a company, right? You'd have people coming and going, working from home, stuff like that. And I think the other part of it also is development essentially restarted twice because they were initially planning for 21 million is what they wanted to raise. They got way past what they needed. And so that changed the scope of the game. Then it changed again when People of the Planet hit as well. So it's actually fundamentally restarted twice.
Yeah, I think originally they only needed on the Kickstarter 6 million to have proof of concept to get, and I believe, though I've never really 100% had it confirmed. Actually, no, I think it has been confirmed, but EA was the company they were going to go with.
That's correct.
And what I had heard is that each time they went back to EA, the goalpost changed.
Yeah.
And it was one day, I believe, when Sandy, Chris, and Erwin were having lunch. Sandy basically said to them, "Do it yourselves. You don't need them." And so people will often say Sandy has had no impact on Star Citizen. Nah, Sandy's had a massive impact for the positive on Star Citizen.
I'm back.
No worries.
Sandy is my hero. Just because of that, just because of the impact she had, and she's always been quite happy to take
forward. By the way, in the videos, that was interesting as well. I mean, I haven't seen her. Since I've been involved, in the community, I've never.
Do you know the last interview she did, by any chance?
No, the last time I've seen her on stage was in China.
I'm not talking about on stage. I'm talking about in an interview.
The last interview?
I'm guessing it was with you guys.
That's right.
It was.
Real quick, so I can get rid of this image. Updated cockpit seat of the Zeus. So it is actually updated. You can see there's a few more little things they've added and stuff. So it's definitely progressing. I do like the fact that they showed the same angle and everything. I think that's really cool. So we can actually see it that it's progressing. I like that. I've often said I want to see progress shots, not just different parts of the ship. Now you can analyze it and go backwards and forwards between the two. But all right.
Yeah. But the development of Star Citizen certainly has come a long way, and
it's Netflix. Netflix ready. The story and the way just to wrap it up as far as this goes, because I know you've got so many questions, I'm sure, to answer, etc.
That's okay.
It was basically like by the end of this, once the happy birthday and the I see the Squadron logo and the 2016, I'm just imagining that is the first episode of the Netflix drama or the Netflix documentary, like the 3-part or 4-part series. And I
Star Citizen, the Netflix series.
Yeah. I said to the chat, you know what? This would make an amazing documentary, right? And
I've already got the title.
Across like a drama, like the McAfee drama or whatever. But at the end, I think it ends well. Like at the end of this documentary, I think it ends well. But with a disclaimer at the end, Star Citizen, eventually, Star Citizen has raised 1.2 billion to this day.
They carry on.
Unfortunately, the Banu Merchantman is still not in the game.
They carry on. They carry on about the money raised, but if you look at Fortnite, it made 26 billion last year.
Oh yeah.
So it's a total,
sure.
absolute drop in the ocean compared to what other games are
the whole
raising.
idea
It's crazy.
is that there's still the whole idea that people have in their mind is that well, there's still no game. There's still no game. But like even when Squadron comes out, it's like, okay, so Squadron came out and they're going to say, oh, imagine how much this game cost.
Yeah.
This game cost 700 million. It's like, no, guys. It's like they built a company and a thing. And I'm not like 100% defending it or whatever. You know, I'm very much like in the middle of the road. You know, there's pros and cons. But it's way bigger than just like, oh, yeah, we went out and made a game. You know?
Do you know what
I went out and built like a whole thing.
But if I don't say this, it's going to get lost. But your documentary title, I think it's called "The Game Lost in the Clouds" because it's Cloud Empyrean Games. The game lost in the clouds.
In the clouds.
Yeah,
lost in the clouds.
You know, like you're what do you call it? You're lost in the clouds, but yeah, head in the sky or head in the clouds.
Position of
head
in the clouds. The cloud company. You've got the cloud being the net as well. So you've got that whole.
Yeah, well, that's right. Let's see you're on the same page.
It was so nice. It was so nice to see the support that this game received so early on and how enthusiastic everyone was. And I couldn't, like, I had so many people in the chat that were like saying I was there, or I had a shit, or back then I had this thing, or I was hoping for this and they did this. And actually there's a lot of stuff, and you mentioned this earlier, there was a lot of stuff that I was hearing on the stage that we are now just starting to see the you know what I mean, as if like imagine the master plan and you start to see the pieces fall into place and you go, wow. I mean, it took this long, but wow, like it's actually
it's one of those things where we often say, look, if you're streaming, you really need to go back and have a look at it. And there's something I think we need to go back and have a look at it again because it's so long ago.
It's one of the biggest problems we have with other content creators a lot, Algared, isn't it? Because they'll come out and say the sky is falling, and we're like, no, you don't have all the pieces of information, and that one piece of information that you don't have is leading you to a different conclusion. More recently was where people talking about engineering gameplay is the death of all these larger ships and all this stuff, and we're like, no, it's been planned from the beginning. What is wrong with you? And again, as time's going on, they're talking more about the systems, and it's not as bad as people first thought. But I can think of at least 10 content creators that were basically the sky is falling, don't buy big ships, and we're like, oh, okay, sure.
Well, even that same argument, I saw people saying, oh, with the change of engineering, does your view on large ships change? And we're saying, no. No, because we've always known that engineering was part of gameplay. It's what makes a multi-crew ship. Not just a pilot and his turret gunner. Yep,
exactly. And we welcome.
When I'm frustrated,
we welcome those new gameplays.
When I'm frustrated about Star Citizen, I think about, you know, like I've only been here for like what 3 years maybe. When I'm frustrated about certain things or certain things changing or certain things taking time or anything like that, I now, since starting to really watch some of this old stuff, I now have such like a better appreciation. That like my journey is so small compared to the journey that somebody has taken for those 10 long years. You know, that's incredible that everyone has held on. When Chris is talking about holding the line, he's talking to the core, like he's talking to all those people that were there from the very beginning. When he's crying on stage about, you know, server meshing and things like that, you know,
I can see why.
Understand, like it's this long, it's this epic.
Well, I cried as well, but that's why I cried, because it was this, and Algared said the same thing when he saw the thing, Vindication.
I didn't cry, but I was
Oh, you didn't. We had slightly we had slightly different experiences, but I was just, it was so emotional for me to see him cry.
I was ecstatic rather than you know. And I suppose, you know, a little bit more, and I probably would have been crying tears of joy rather than, you know, it was just vindication. What we've been saying and what Chris has been saying and whatever, you know, it's there. And I can remember, like, with Pupil to Planet, I can remember Chris saying, this is what I thought and hope we'd get to in X number of time. And it was like I said it numerous times. It was like Chris said to the Pro engineers, "Go for it. Show us what you can do." Just gave them free rein and just said, just let them develop. And it was like for them, I imagine
it's a blessing and a curse, though, isn't it?
Not being chained anymore, but being free to. And that is a blessing and a curse because it meant they went, "Oh, look what we can do," and Chris said, "I've been kept."
Well, it makes it take longer, but you get a better product, and that's one of the things we always say about everything, like the ships and everything. So
and when you look at Pupil to Planet, that was after we saw that first initial Connie landing at Area 18, if I remember rightly. With the kind of loading screen as it pulled you down, and you could still walk around your ship, but the game actually took control of your ship and brought you into the landing pad.
Thank you, Arthur Bindelay.
I know you talk about big.
Thank you, Arthur Bindelay, for the super chat. Thanks, bud. Go ahead, expert.
I think this is a really interesting one because one of the things that I witnessed for the first time and I'd never seen before. I mean, not only like the the Gary Oldman, the
Bishop's
about the
speech
FOIP and everything. The Bishop's speech. Yep. Some of that was just great. But they did I think it was like an early game test or an early playthrough of like the introduction of you on the ship in Squadron 42.
Yep.
Onto the
Morrow tour. Yep.
Right. I had never seen this before. Yep. So having just come out of Invictus and literally walking around that Idris myself.
Yeah.
The thing that just stood out to me more than anything was, oh my God, I'm so glad that they didn't release it when they did.
Yeah.
Because I think it looked good. And at the time, I guess they were competing with like Fallout 4 and stuff like that. Like, it would have been fine. It would have been nice. But wow. But
it doesn't compare to now, does it?
Compared to what we have now?
Yeah.
I understand they have to update it for now. But, I mean, like, Star Citizen 2 would have been the Star Citizen you want to play, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Star Citizen 1 and Squadron 1 would have been cool, but you would have wanted, like, the second version. It's almost like that we're getting the second one without them ever releasing the first.
You're talking
and it's
about
amazing
the
how
you're talking about
the Idris is so close to what they actually released now. Like it's so close. It's almost the same.
It's like when Chris was talking about Cyberpunk, and he did a big post on one of the 10 for 10 posts, and essentially it was like you only get one chance to make a first impression. And I think you can kind of already see it with how the audience treats, and I'm talking about the outer audience here, treats Star Citizen like it's a scam, right? Those people are not going to give you a second chance. To them, you've had 100 chances already, right? And if you drop anything and it's subpar in any single way, they're going to eat it for breakfast, right? Yeah. And
what was Chris's remark in that letter? Talking about games that come out broke,
this will not
working. This will not happen
to my game. Yeah, he says my game is the way he worded it. But I reading that, I was like, take all the time you bloody need, mate. That was my response.
Yep.
Because he's right.
No,
look how they've treated
the idea of them taking time.
Look at how they've treated this thing like a scam all these years, and it's just more and more evidence as it is built. You got to remember, it's all being built in the background from go to woe. There's no hiding what they do, right? And you look at any other game. Most games work in development, and then look what happened with Cyberpunk. It was only 6 months before it was going to release did they really start talking about it. And you pick your game. They don't talk about it from go to woe. They'll announce that it's coming, and that'll probably be halfway through development, and then it just pops out.
I can remember seeing games announced at Gamescom, and then not hearing anything about them for 4 or 5 years, and then this game's and I remember seeing that. But for Star Citizen, from go to woe, we've seen a development, and yes, we've often, as you were saying, it feels more production type now rather than that family feeling we had, and that's what a lot of the older backers do miss. Like I miss that closeness with, or the feeling of closeness with the community and the developers.
I think that's what XPAC is picking up on, though. Is that, and I think the other thing is, I don't know. I always get the feeling you can tell when someone's been in the project longer now. They're more informed. They've been here. They've kind of been through the trenches and stuff. I don't know.
They've held the line.
Yeah,
they've held the line.
Yeah. Well, that's why they said held the line.
And it's very interesting now to see how. It's really interesting now for me, and I don't. I think it's like the problem they've got now is that the funding model is what it is, and it's always been relatively problematic. As in, it's a necessary evil, but it's difficult for people to understand and rationalize the funding model with the type of game development, etc. I mean, it's just so. It's that's why, the whole scam citizen and everything comes out, because people don't understand like how the money and where the money and why the money.
Not just money. They don't understand game development, right? Like during the last free fly, I just remember Shroud doing this. He's like, I can't believe after all this time this game is this state, but nobody informed him. They haven't been working on this game, bro. They've been working on this other game that's just about to come out. Nobody told him that. And I'm going to be honest, Burks was with Summit and Shroud and said nothing. That disturbed me. Burks knows why this is. Why didn't he tell them? I don't know, not to put Burks under a bus, but Burks, if you ever watch this as a clip... hang on, let me finish. Burks
did as
let me finish.
good as he could possibly do, but
he never corrected them. Not once, right? And Burks, I just like
very difficult.
Yeah. And I can imagine the pressure he was under, but I just feel Burks had slight responsibility to tell them that to inform them. And if I'm wrong, someone show me in a clip. But Burks, I was just slightly disappointed that you didn't pull their head in, so to speak. I'll leave it at that.
I mean, I'll go to bat for him only a little bit more because I watched so much of it, and it was just kind of like, it was an extremely difficult situation because obviously the chat is saying to the streamer, oh, this guy's a dev, this guy doesn't know, this guy, oh, he's just and the scam and the scam and the scam, they were very vocal. So it was a very tricky situation to be in. Obviously, you can't be, you have to be like cool gamer guy that's showing you this cool experience, and at the same time you can't completely shut off these guys. Like if these guys have this feeling or this opinion, you can't you know what I mean? You have to kind of play a little bit with them.
Yeah, you can kind of say that that's valid, but this is why.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not dismissing the way they're feeling. It's trying to explain to them why the way it is. Like, if anything, like you see that with other content creators too. They sit here asking why, but they don't understand why. And if you can help them understand why, then at least they're not perpetuating that falsehood. That's my whole point. You're talking about an audience like Summits or Shrouds, and they're basically like got these big audiences, and they're just going, why is this so shit? I don't understand. And if Burks had turned around and said, oh, that's because they've been working on this other game that's about to come out. This is really just still a tech demo. And they've got an answer to their why question. I just remember Shroud doing this, going, why is this? And you could tell he was pissed. Like, how the hell has this taken? And he said, I believe this community is brainwashed. 13 years or whatever, and this is all they've got to show for it. And that's the thing. Like, I would love to see a reaction from Shroud once Squadron 42 drops at the end of the year or whenever it drops, right? And I think he will have a different perspective. He's like, oh, all these people, the penny's going to drop. They're going to be like, oh, so this is what they've been doing, not this.
Yeah, I really think part of it is that knowledge of game development. Like, if you've followed or you've done any beta testing or alpha testing, okay, it takes a while. But even doing that, you don't actually realize all that it takes.
Yeah.
Like I can remember when.
Hang on, Algared. There's a first-time chatter that I want to respond to because this is a really good opportunity to kind of correct it. So this person is got a random name. It's R005T, who says, sure, but why are they working on another game if this one is laggy as if? Financial. It's all financial. It is quicker to make a single-player game than it is to make a multiplayer game. And the original plan from day dot, if you go back and look at the stuff, like that's kind of the theme of what we're talking about here, is they always plan to bring out the single player game and use that to fund the multiplayer game. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And when like I've had people that are sitting down like, why the hell are they making this Squadron 42 game? I want Star Citizen. But if you actually look at it from a financial standpoint, it makes so much damn sense. It cost a lot of money to make an MMO, like way more than a single player game. You build a single player game, get a financial base of influx of money coming in, and you use that to finance the MMO. That's always been the plan. And if you look at it like that, it makes so much goddamn sense.
And if you look at things like the introduction of Arena Commander, which was kind of the MMO aspect, and then Arena Commander, when it first came out, was to be the test bed for all the stuff they needed for Squadron.
Yeah.
And so they're using that to test everything. And then they brought out the PU, and they said, oh, we don't need Squadron, we don't need the Arena Commander for this, because now the PU gives us that test bed for everything we want plus more.
Yeah, right.
And so Arena Commander fell into the back one.
The social module. The social module.
Yep. All right, just let me finish this part of his question, though, because he also says, why is it laggy as fuck? Well, it's laggy as fuck because they're not really working on it. They're working on the other part, right? And you got to remember, like, people just seem to think that they're constantly working on this thing. It is a priority order, and it is basically a finite resource. Human game developers are a finite resource. They are not robots. You cannot just go, I'm going to put every single person on the company on this thing and knock it out. It doesn't work that way. You know, you've skilled specialists, like in any, you know, you can't take a rocket scientist and say, go change this. Oh, this is going to be a bad example. I'll do it the other way. You can't take a nurse and go, right, now go build me a space rocket. You can't take a janitor and say, go cure cancer. You can, you know, things like that. You have specialists in specialist areas. And that's why it doesn't just happen like that. You can't just take all your resources and put them into one thing. Why haven't we cured cancer? There's an example in real life. I'm sure there's heaps of people out doing it. If we just put every human on it, do you reckon it'll be cured tomorrow? No, it doesn't work that way.
The other thing that is why is it so laggy is twofold. You fixing those lag issues and optimizing a game is one of the last things you do in development.
Yes.
They're still putting things under the hood. They're still building that, a lot of the tools, and as we see the tools done, we see things pick up in speed. I can remember when they made a change.
Even in
you remember the change they made. You remember the change they made when they updated something just for their own
object container
in the back end,
object
and
container.
it actually
it was object,
and it actually freed up so much. Yeah.
It was object containers.
And it freed up some.
I was going to say, if you ask Expat, just in the time you've been here, Expat, how much has the performance improved?
You know, it's for me, it's been kind of up and down, but I mean, just in general, it's like the flow has improved, and there's a lot less kind of like just getting in the way of your gameplay bugs than there ever has been. You know, it's a lot more of a flow now from like hangar to whatever you were doing. But just to get back onto the the point I was making before, because we talked a few things here, but I was actually gonna say that remember how, you know, I was talking about the development being so open and honest, and then the reason why people have this view of Star Citizen, and the reason why like Shroud and these guys say what they say, I think, is because as the marketing or as the ISCs become more corporate and less family, but then the funding model doesn't change and the prices don't change, etc., I think it becomes more difficult to rationalize things when you feel like so much stuff is a secret to you now, whereas before it didn't seem so much like a secret. It felt like, here's the money, and here's all the stuff we're doing. And it felt a lot more transparent. And maybe they're going to do themselves a disservice by making it more corporate. Tell me, when and why did it become so locked down? Because I feel like it locked down at some point. Was it just because too much feedback?
So it started with that freelancer thing, and it's just got progressively worse over time. I think the real big kicker for me, and I think Algared would agree with this, is when Sandy left. That was the real big kicker for me, because she was very personal. She, worked a lot with the community directly. She did all the marketing stuff. And then they brought in a different marketing person. They brought in like a more traditional marketing person that was used to milking the community for dollars, and everything changed. Everything from like they stopped making it so you could move the ships around. They started limiting LTI. They started making it, just all these little things they put in to try and milk more money out of us, and people just closed their wallets in droves because it was just
right.
It just wasn't friendly anymore. It went from this very open and honest and exchange of ideas. Let's make this awesome space game and talk about it and blah blah blah, and then it just went click, and people were just like, no, I'm and a lot of people got really disheartened. Also, the track of time. 10 years is a bloody long time. I've been following this game for a quarter of my life. That's insane. Back when this game started, the average game development cycle was 3 years. You could make a AAA game in 3 years. Now I would argue it's up to 5 or 6 years. You look at
when we see it.
You look at World of Warcraft to Grand Theft Auto. They are now 9 years for the really big ones.
Yeah.
And that's for
could have called itself an alpha until its last DLC, right? I mean, we're in a similar scenario, right?
Yeah.
But you look at those games which have got, they're bringing out, Grand Theft Auto 3 or Grand Theft Auto 4 or whatever it is, and
6,
and that new version takes X number of years, but they've got all the other stuff to go back on. Star Citizen actually starts from scratch, and builds up.
Yeah,
there's another reason why that sense of community changes.
Just to add to what you're saying, though, but that shows the education of Star Citizen people. If you educate yourself, you also realise it's got less people working on it. They had to build it from scratch, and then 8 people in a garage to what is it, 1,300 people now, and then on top of that, they've also got tech and all that in it that the other games don't have. They had to invent the tech. You can see why it's taking as long. I actually think they've done it fairly quickly, considered all things considered, but,
Yeah, but the other thing that changes that aspect of community is not only that sense of, we can't have drivers, but...
I just remembered the board. That's the other one that locks it down. When control was kind of taken away from Chris and Sandy and given to the board, that $45 million loan they took, that was the other one. And that was in 2017. So
that Sandy was the worst thing they ever did.
Yeah, Sandy leaving and the board. And if we could ever talk to Chris, and you wouldn't want to make him feel uncomfortable, but I think he would say that's the biggest mistake he's made with this game, was doing the board stuff.
Look, yeah. I think that was the biggest mistake they ever did, taking on the or share it or selling the shares to, I think, the Collicutt family or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Do you think at the time it made sense just because?
Yeah. Well, they were down.
They didn't have enough content to sell.
No.
There wasn't enough hype for the game or something.
So from what I've been able to backtrack and find out through back channels and stuff like that, they were down to $8 million. They were really worried about running out of funding. Then COVID hit.
Right. Okay.
Then COVID hit. Right, and it went off the absolute charts. They got so much funding because people were stuck at home, right? And so much so that they had
people bought PCs in droves. I mean, people were buying PCs,
so they
consoles.
So the family that did that deal, they had a $45 million with a one-time chance to extend it to $56 million. So they're allowed to add another $11 million, and they extended it way before they had to, because they realized very quickly, look at the growth that this thing's had, and they had obviously seen the game and what was coming and all that stuff to financially incentivize them to back it. So they know what it's going to be.
But I reckon, rather than doing that, if Chris needed to raise money, rather than going to them, they could have said, "Hey, look, guys, we'll sell you shares."
They should have turned. They should have turned to us. Absolutely.
They should have turned to the backers before they turned to some corporation. That's my bet.
But then,
they would have had more.
But those are the same backers that you say that
but they would
potentially ruin the freelancer cockpit, right?
But they would have more control, because you have more smaller investors and not a singular large family one.
Board member.
And I think that's the mistake he made, right? Because if it had been, say it had been 100 backers, right, they would not have the pushing power that this one family does, because they've got dedicated board seats. You would not have, like, you wouldn't see me and Algared sitting on the board or something like that. They might have one representative.
I would love to see you and Algared sitting on the board and at least get a picture of it if you ever go to Manchester.
Yeah.
Well,
we are going to Manchester. We will get a tour of the studios.
Get in that boardroom and sit there. We're on the board, guys.
Are you planning on going to the gala? I'd love to see you in a pretty frock, a bit of a kilt, if I will.
Oh, thanks,
bring some bagpipes.
All depends, doesn't it?
Look, at the end of the day, like I'm gonna go to SitCon and try and likely I'm gonna experience it more like a backer, or more as just a fan of the whole project and whatnot. You know, there's going to be a lot of like handshaking and saying hi, and I'm excited for that.
Oh, that'd be so lovely.
I'm very curious to kind of after seeing so many videos and seeing SitCon last year, etc. I'm very excited to get that feeling of camaraderie in person. You know, it is a really unique project in that we're all kind of in it together.
Yeah.
Even the people that are coming in later, you know, and they do kind of put themselves behind it as far as the passion and the appreciation. And you know, I don't think it's something that I don't think it's a game or a development that necessarily needs to be defended all the time. I think it's okay,
anymore.
and I think the other day, Execute, you were also quite critical on the Astropub about some of the, you know, financing model and stuff like that. And I think it's important to have that. It's important to stay very focused on the goal. Let me just
say this: I'm hearing things in the background that are disturbing me. I'll leave it at that. Right? When it comes out, and I've got it on authority that there's apparently some information coming about how they intend to fund it, and if what I'm hearing is true, it's going to disturb some people. Let's just say that. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I've been saying. I think from day 5 of this game, just having you know, seen the funding model of other games and multiplayer online experiences, World of Warcraft, for example. I believe, and I know that it's been working well for them for the ISC. I believe it's going subscription. I mean, I believe that is the future. Maybe that's different to what you've heard, but I think that's going to be ultimately the big upset for people.
It's in line with what I've heard, but it's not exactly what you would think. It's a subscription.
Okay, interesting.
I can't say anymore.
Because even Arena Breakout has taken the Tarkov model, and then it's taking the Tarkov model as far as what you unlock in the game, and you're going to unlock the Tarkov model with like the bigger inventory and stuff like that, like the convenience of playing with a subscription method instead. So you can play for free and you get this, and you subscribe and you get the.
Yeah, a bit like Dark Age of Camelot has gone free, but it's only to certain levels, and then if you want X, you got to subscribe.
You're bringing up Dark Age of Camelot.
He brings up relics of the past with cobwebs and all the time. He still says Lotron. People think he's talking about the lottery. What are you talking about the lottery for? He's used all these little acronyms and nobody understands.
I even use Dark Age of Camelot instead of Daok.
Yeah.
Because that goes on. Don't use his acronyms.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Dark Age of Camelot referenced in this stream. My God, that's amazing. I mean, that was when I was younger. I think I was in school when that thing was coming out. That was wow.
Yeah.
It's still going. It's still going. Algared, you still in Dark Age of Camelot?
It is still going. There is still a server. They still do servers. There was going to be Camelot Unchained, which is going to be a new version of it. I don't recall what happened to it, but I loved Dark Age. Dark Age, for crafting, it was unique.
Back in the day,
Realm versus Realm was absolutely amazing. You'd have 3 realms, and a bit like Guild Wars 2 in their Realm versus Realm, but that's only 2 versus the two factions. This was 3 factions. Wow. You had castles, you had keeps. You could actually claim if your guild took a castle.
Yeah.
And you paid the extras to get the additional guards, they would wear your colours. So not only would it fly your flag, but the soldiers patrolling your kit would wear your guild
more
colours.
Customization brings people in, encourages people to spend, and of course.
I think as things naturally grow and get bigger, my biggest concern is now those people are in place. I'm just worried they're going to keep trying to milk us for all we're worth. And I don't think it started there, but like every project I've ever seen that starts out small and with a passion, eventually gets this...
Every time I see a war bond, guys, I go, they need fresh money. Whenever I see, like I said it today on stream, I said, I am the worst type of backer they can have. I went all in, I got what I wanted to get, and now until they show me something that's really like, wow, and requires me to put more money in, I am good. But they don't need someone who's good.
You're describing everyone.
They need...
You're describing everyone.
That's the thing. They don't need people that are good. They need people that want to,
Yep. Well, that's
put
why
more money
$0
in the machine.
CCUs disappeared.
Yeah.
$0 CCUs disappeared because older backers would have their $0 CCUs and they'd just buy a ship, melt it, and they'd just recycle them. So they actually changed it so you couldn't just CCU to the ships or just pull a ship out of buyback and all the rest of it.
They would have no issue getting fresh money into this game. And I know you were just talking about Squadron, etc., and like saying, okay, they're using all this stuff to make this other game, to make this other game, to make this other game. They would have had no issue getting fresh money in this game if they focused on the PU, made that the experience that you kind of just continuously, you get the hangar customization, you get the hangars in, you make these ships really top notch, you get that, because that's the longevity, right? Slowly in the back burner, you can slowly make the single player game. Essentially, it should somewhat fund itself. The technology would come off the back of the PU, because then we're hardcore testing it in a multiplayer environment. Like, it should not work, but it does.
There is a problem there, though, right? Is the actual expense to get where server meshing was required is astronomical, right? And if you just roll into that and something goes wrong, you're screwed. Where a single player game, you can keep developing at a fairly low budget. That's if you, again, talking financial sense, if you actually go look at how multiplayer games are structured compared to single player games, and we're talking multiplayer MMO games, the server costs and all that to get the testing done is a lot higher than a single player game, right? And that's why they went single player game first.
2016, they said Squadron was coming out, and if it comes out, actually, Algared, I'll let you finish your point because it's a little bit off.
I've got to remember which point I was going to make, because there's several that I was going to make.
I was just going to say.
But the several things. One is part of that whole using the PU as a test bed is actually what they said they were doing. After they moved away from Arena Commander as their test bed, and we opened up the PU, Arena Commander fell into the backwater. Why? Because the PU was now a test bed. They were actually using that to test a lot of their features and stuff.
Okay.
So what you said they should do or could do is actually what they did do. And they used that to kind of help build Squadron. Now that Squadron is feature complete and they're polishing, we're actually seeing so much of the stuff move across. And you see that in the monthly reports. You've seen it for months. The feeling that we don't have that same sense of information that we used to get is true. I don't feel that closeness and connectivity and we see everything. But to say we don't get information, that's a misnomer. You read the monthly reports, they are laced with what's going on. It's just we don't see it on camera in front anymore.
Right, okay.
So
and you could changed. You could say that video is video is the best, or like most people are going to try and get their content from video or information,
because they don't have to read.
People tune into you guys, which is why people are on YouTube like searching news about Star Citizen, at CitizenCon and stuff like that. You said that you get like the most popularity ever because people are just looking for info. We just want info, right?
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, like, the community has done such a great job in both funding, holding the game up, continuing to promote, and then now becoming the ultimate filtration device and delivery format for all the information that people are not going to go dig in and find, right? So you find out stuff about the ships and you know, the future of the game, etc., more than, you know, somebody just, I don't even know where to look. I'm not going to go to Spectrum. I'm not going to go.
It is impossible.
I just don't have the time. I can't do it.
To filter through to get to what you need is almost impossible now. That's why we hold most of it in our head, because it's just and there's certain things that Algared and I will kind of explain. Is you only remember key things and you don't remember where it was. There's too much to hold.
Yeah.
Right. And as we're getting older too, so it's becoming harder to remember. I know you can start to relate to that, expert. As you start to get older, you just don't remember as much.
Yeah.
But not only that, like the sheer amount of it. We had a discussion, I think it would have been just before COVID, where me and Algared were going, we are not going to be able to keep up this perfectionist type of thing. We're going to have to move to just finding the truth, right? And we've moved to that.
We'd be remembering different things and different points. And I remember the one argument we were having over something.
Yeah.
And you were saying one thing, I was saying the other, and when we went and checked, we were both right.
Yeah.
Both things we were saying were right. And they were in tandem.
Both right at different times.
Yeah, we were.
No, they were in tandem.
No, they're actually in tandem. They just remembered. We remembered different parts of the same thing, right? And that's when we started to go, right, well, we just need to go to the truth now, and it's just been a shift that we've been making more and more, because we are getting things wrong, right, as it gets bigger. So the one I remember recently was someone started to correct us on the, because in our mind, the Connie, the MSR, and the Corsair all had the same cargo, right? And then they made a change that we hadn't seen, that we'd missed, where they have now made them all different. And that's a huge shift, right? Because they, go ahead.
Yeah, my memory was 97 for the Corsair, I think, which was the same as the Phoenix or something like that, but we were wrong. It was and we just went, we didn't even
going to watch a lot of these videos.
We didn't even question it though when someone told us we were wrong. We just went and checked straight away, because it's like, well, and again, we will have people who will come out and say something that just sounds outlandish, and we'll go check it. And a lot of time they are wrong, but there has been a few times where they're right and we are wrong. So we just got to the point now where we just check everything. Stuff it. We'll just check everything.
So I'm gonna be going into, like, in the future, I'm gonna watch more of these videos, right, about the past, and as I'm watching these videos, and I start seeing more stuff that like looks like they're building this thing or they're making this caterpillar modularity, for example, etc., etc., and it's all looking like it's done or going to be ready soon or all this kind of stuff. What do I have to keep in mind, like, apart from being like completely cynical? What do I have to keep in mind as far as like, you know, did ultimately Squadron take over? Is it kind of what happened?
No, it was it was literally the plan since Kickstarter.
Squadron was
go back,
design space whales and stuff.
Go right back to
Go
right back to the beginning and watch the original Kickstarter video, and not a lot has changed from the original plan.
Yeah, it was Squadron 42. Yeah, was the original. That was, you know, you backed Squadron 42, and beside that, we'll also have a PU.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That was the original goal.
Yeah.
So people who say I didn't back for Squadron, I'm sorry, you did.
Yeah.
wherever you did that now, if you might have been now and you backed for the PU,
sold on Star Citizen, but you were really backing Squadron. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that disturbs a lot of people. I brought this ship that's for this game, but they're making this game, and it really freaks people out.
If Squadron, so this is my last question before I think you should definitely take questions from the amazing viewers in the chat.
I think it's way past that. 2 hours in, we've done 2 questions, like, done. Like,
I'm so sorry.
No, we've done one. Oh no, we've done 2.
It's all my fault.
Yeah, no, it's
all my fault. But I get super whenever I bump into these guys, you know, I get super curious about this kind of stuff, because this is all the stuff that I get really interested in, which is like, you know, because they're a wealth of knowledge basically for me, and I like knowledge. Oh. So I'm curious, what do you guys think, if, you know, you're talking about like all this like time and all this funding and all this like You know, it was all about Squadron the whole time. When Squadron comes out, okay, you know, when it comes out, do you like it's just going to be a single player game? People are going to play it, they're going to like it, they're going to dislike it, whatever they feel. It's just going to be another single player release. And we see single player games come and go all the time, and they have like maybe it's somebody's favorite game, but I mean they only play it once really. Second, if they really enjoyed it, and then. What do you see as happening if Squadron just kind of comes out, doesn't make like a ton of money, like mostly it's the backers, but maybe it sees some interest, you know, in the wider world. But I think, what do you see happening to Star Citizen in general?
So I think, again, one of the things they talked about, even back when I interviewed Chris, you'd remember this, Algared, too, with the whole Battlefield thing, right? He talked a lot about hitting the need for appealing to the kind of mass of people. Also, the time they've spent on polish, and even things we said earlier, like with the Cyberpunk post where he goes, "My game will not," the same thing will not happen to my game. He knows he's only got one chance to get this thing out the door.
The way in which the Morrow tour, which you saw from 2016 or 2015, is totally different from what we see these days. That type of progression.
Even they showed it at the Hold the Line at the last year. You saw the stuff from the vertical slice.
The before and after, where they did the slices.
Go back and look at all those, and you can see the progression that 5 years makes, and you can see the upgrade and what's going to come. And I think
lighting has changed, the way shading has changed.
I think it's going to be a combination of things. I think it's going to be the vast open world that we all love about Star Citizen, and taking that and putting it into a single player game. People are just not, where are the load screens on this thing? People are going to, you know, and then if they hit those action points, like I believe they will hit, it is going to be a really cool campaign. And I've only got to look back to Wing Commander. That's where my mind goes. If I get another Wing Commander and it's only just an updated graphical fidelity of Wing Commander, I think it'll be one of the most popular games we've played in a really long time.
I'd be happy with it. I love Wing Commander.
Yep.
Like, you hear me talk about Daok and loving Daok, Wing Commander was the bee's knees. Yeah. Wing Commander was the very first video I recall where they used actual actors doing the cutscenes. Yeah. It was the first video that actually forced you to get a sound card.
Don't do this again. So you could Don't go in the sound card thing. You always go in the sound card thing, and it takes like half an hour to go through.
No!
Every time.
The sound card thing again. Baldur's Gate.
Hang on.
Listen, Baldur's Gate went back to basics recently. And
hang on, just let me get this.
Well, they went back to basics.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to get at. The last part I want to hit on though is the sheer number of celebrities. That is huge, right? The two most popular Call of Duty campaigns both had celebrities in them. And they sold a mint.
Yep.
We have 30, I think we have to 35 stars in this thing. That is insane. And they've got some real gems in there. Like Henry Cavill was a nothing burger when they filmed this. He's now like a megastar compared to what he was. So, yeah.
Put me in. I want to be in it. You know, but Mark Hamill, you know, John Rhys Davies, Julian Anderson, Henry Cavill, Mark Strong. The list is endless. It feels like an endless list.
But do you think they're going to make a profit from this? And what does a profit mean? Does a profit mean getting a lot of?
I don't think profit was ever his. I don't think profit was ever his intent.
You can't make a profit, right?
I think his aim was just to get the game. He's been essentially trying to make the same two games his entire bloody life. If you go back and look at what he's done, and every time he's been cut off at the knees by a publisher, and this time around he didn't need a publisher, and he's just like woo.
And you look at what, and that's why I think what Sandy said way back, you do not need EA. You do not need the publisher. Use your backers, go it alone.
This is
and that meant he was free. Free to develop.
Sorry, super chat there that's very topical by Moosebeard. Yep. Some of us backed the Kickstarter because of the single player. We love Chris's older games such as Star Lancer, Wing Command, and the old Freelancer. He's exactly correct.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Some of it's past. You look at those older games and like some of the biggest games of your childhood and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely.
I've said numerous times. You know, I played Wing Command back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I can remember seeing the video when I finally heard about Star Citizen and hunted it down, found the first video, and saw Chris getting out of his cockpit. It was like Troy McClure, Simpsons. Hi, you might remember me from such games as, and I was in. I was all in. Yep, you made Wing Command. I'm in. I know you're going to push the limits of the computer. I know this is going to be a quality game.
Yep.
You know, and that was it. I knew.
Have you watched? Have you actually seen the original Kickstarter video?
Yes, so okay. I looked at the original Kickstarter video, you know, the best green screen ever. Chris sitting there in the cockpit
with the little panels coming in. Doing the little panel thing. Yeah.
I saw the final stretch goal video where he's standing there. Our mission with the worst American accent ever. Our mission is to try and get the last of the stretch goals, and standing there like he was on the battle, with the whole family there. Get your friends, get your family, get everyone together and start backing this thing, and they're sitting there at like 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, something like that, But, at the end of the day,
all they needed.
When Squadron comes out, so about 4 million or whatever, right? Algared, you'll tell me how much Squadron actually needed. But what?
For the Kickstarter, they were going to say 6 million, and it was proof of not to build the game. That was proof of concept, so that EA would back them.
Right.
Someone was just
someone
asking about the original video. If you type in Star Citizen original Kickstarter video, I'm pretty sure it'll come up. That's what we're looking for. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because IGN and all this kind of stuff, and people get heated around these articles, it's not a game and 700 million. But do you
it was so predictable. Did you see Twitter? All these people going waiting for the IGN article, and then boom, it drops, and people are like, it was like on cue.
700 million in, right? And you say like, okay, but that's going to Squadron. It was always meant for Squadron, and people are backing because of, I hope people know that their money's going to Squadron. And I kind of remind people of that every now and again. But, and I always call it the Kraken money, right? I call it the Kraken money. The Kraken money. People are buying a Kraken thinking they're getting a Kraken. The hope is that they get a Kraken. Right, we've got to get to the point. We've got to fund. Yeah. We've got to fund to the point and tech to the point that you get your Kraken. So a game that the Kraken can sit in.
Another way you can look at this, right? It's almost like a relief, because once Squadron 42 comes out, they will be a lot more financially stable. That's why it's got to succeed, because we are not going to get Star Citizen if Squadron doesn't succeed. It's just that simple.
We'll get Star Citizen at a very hinted, stunted growth. So in answer to your question, do we think what will happen if Squadron 42 doesn't succeed and doesn't really go well? Ultimately, Star Citizen PU will die.
Yeah.
It won't advance as far as we want.
If you don't draw the people in and get the additional people buying ships and joining into the PU, it won't happen. I think the other thing they're trying to secure too, that if you want to look at it from the other angle, is all this talk about 1.0. Because the sooner they can push that out, then there's certain countries that can't get refunds. Australia,
how much time do you think they've got? How much time financially do you think that they've got from the release of Squadron to fixing up the PU to a point that it can start funding itself, and that the money can be redirected and new money can come into the PU and complete that project?
So to answer that, it's not actually becoming purely Star Citizen. It is episode 2. So they're still going to have that as so it's almost like a diversification into 2 games, right? And essentially you're going to have the stable releases, or at least more predictable releases of those episodes. Of episode 2 and episode 3.
Do you think that we should, when we're buying a ship, do you think that we should be allowed as backers to allocate a percentage of our funds? So let's say I'm because we don't and look, as a former game developer, I can even say this, right? We don't understand game development, and we don't specifically. No, but even just for statistics. Just so they can see. Most people are funding because of this.
Oh, you mean for statistics? If you want for statistics, they're all going to say Star Citizen is obvious as fuck.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Let them build. Let them use the funds to do what they need.
Because they know things in the background that we don't know. I'm not a banker. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not a lawyer. But they have a team of those people working together. No matter how good of the content we think we're coming up with, they've all thought of it 10 times over, and they're in a massive big group doing it. It's their full-time job to do so.
And to illustrate that point, that goes back to that freelancer problem.
Yeah.
Where they brought out the freelancer, people said this bit needs to change, and we've done it. We did it with Connie. People said the Connies came out. They said, "Oh, look, it'd be good." And CIG went, "Yeah, actually, that works," and they did it, and that's why we've got the Connie P52 underslung rather than being in the hangar or in the tailgate base.
They do. Completely forward and honest with you guys is that I would pay $150 to $200 for a good Squadron 42 experience.
So that's what I'm
obviously paid more than that.
So that's what I was getting. That's what I was getting towards.
How do you rationalize and talk to those people?
So going forward, they're probably going to add more Squadron 42 stuff.
Yep.
Do you want to buy pre-order episode 2 in advance? Do you want to pre-order episode 3? And things like that.
Do you want the alien expansion?
Yeah, I think we're going to essentially expanding of how you can pay for the game. Why wouldn't
But considering we don't have a dedicated Squadron 42 store anymore, how can you expect new backers of the game who are coming in for Invictus launch week, who are logging into the PU, not Squadron, who are, playing this thing and experiencing this thing as the multiplayer element, to understand that their money is not going necessarily to that they are enjoying in their funding?
Because I think at the moment, because Squadron 42 is feature complete and they're polishing, we're actually seeing a reversal of what used to be the case, where everything was flowing in Squadron 42 direction. We're now seeing stuff flowing in the PU direction.
It's splitting, isn't it? And I would agree with Algared. It is, at the moment, I would say the vast majority of those monthly reports are Star Citizen, not Squadron anymore, because it's all polish and polish and polish. Yeah.
You used to look at them and, we've done this and this and this in Squadron, and you'd see a little bit, and you'd see how the stuff from PU was influencing and feeding into Squadron. Now you see polish, and then you see, we've taken this from Squadron and we're putting it into the PU. And we're constantly seeing that now.
Can we just address, on Twitter, a first-time chatter, 306 Rallies says, I don't understand it, and I don't care about Squadron 42. I love Star Citizen, right? I think the only thing you need to take away from Squadron is it is using to fund Star Citizen. You would never get the MMO that we all want with the way the funding. You couldn't just do it from scratch. They just never ever would have got there. It was way too much of an astronomical ask, and they've sat down and gone. I understand,
but at some point,
sorry,
expat.
I'm not saying this for you. I'm saying it purely for his benefit and anyone else watching. Right? That needs to be heard. Like, if all you take away from what Squadron is it a funding model for Star Citizen. That's all you need to know. If you hate it, you can hate it, but you need to understand why. No, there you go.
But I feel like it disconnected at some point, though. I do feel like there was a disconnect at some point between the funding, the encouragement to fund because of Squadron and the encouragement to fund because of the PU. I feel like even the store feels like, and the ship sales and the Invictus and the IAE and all that kind of stuff, I feel like at some point the like for them the outside image was to sell the PU. They stopped selling Squadron. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and part of it, I think there's a twofold reason why Squadron stopped being sold. A, because we're getting as a packaging game. A, because they're getting ready for the launch. And I keep saying it. The more I think about it, the more I think about the things I've been told in the past or heard in the past or seen. The more I read and have seen about what is happening in Manchester in terms of what they're doing with CitizenCon, the way they're planning the gala, the way they're doing all the other stuff.
Yeah,
this is being planned for the launch. The goal is the launch of Squadron. Will they achieve that? That's another thing. But the goal, what they're aiming for, is the launch of Squadron. I think that's the whole purpose of the gala.
Yep. I think the other part I'd add to what you're saying there, Algared, is the versions of the single-player game, like collector's editions and all that shit, they're going to come back with a mega Squadron 42 store of some description, and it'll have merch and different versions of the game and all that. You can get a hard copy and all that type of thing.
Yeah, so I think that's part of the reason why Squadron isn't in the store. I do think that adds to that, people coming in and just not being able to buy Squadron, have that disconnect, and I think that's a fair comment. Why do they have things like Invictus and IAE and those and things like Xenothreat and the Nine Tails and all those things? It's because that is drawing on and giving the backers stuff to do. So Chris has always wanted, you're playing the game, you're testing the game, but I also wanted to let you experience and enjoy the game. And so there's this kind of to and fro where the PU, even though it's a testing environment, is still an area where we can play and experience and enjoy.
Feel like
and so
even like 3 years ago, you're talking about the Squadron thing separating because the website disappeared and they're getting ready for a release, etc. But I mean, I've been here for about 3 years and they were still doing Invictus, and 2 years before that and 3 years before that, Invictus, IAE, all this kind of stuff. And I'm seeing people being sold the dream of the PU.
Because that was the thing that
was... the funding is going into this other thing that we don't see necessarily. You know what I mean?
Do
you feel like
you're essentially talking...
misleading people in some way? You know, like not in a... not meaning it bad.
I see where you're coming from, but they obviously chased the one that brought more money. It's just it's a funding thing. They just went
funding goal.
Yeah, it's
selling ships works.
It's been the most successful way to fund the game of all time, pretty much from a Kickstarter perspective or crowdfunding perspective.
You look at the original idea of the variations of ships. Ships were always going to be modular. You know, you used to buy a ship, and you'll remember this, X. You used to buy a ship, and it would have modular points. You know, that you would spend to upgrade the ship. You got 16 modular points you can use to change, or upgrade points you could use. Then it became they were modules and variants of a ship. So they brought out the variants initially to say, this is what you can do with your ship. And we all went, I can buy a Hornet tracker, a Ghost, a Super Hornet, and we just bought everything. Like the early backers, I don't think I'm alone in having bought all the early fighters and ships and stuff and all the variants, because that's what backers did. We actually...
Well, it even shows within our own stuff, Algared. We went to the whole sell your fighters thing because things changed.
Yeah, well, that was Hayes.
Yeah.
Hayes pointed that out. He said, these ships are dirt cheap. They're going to be dirt cheap in game. This ship's fairly, comparatively cheap compared to these, and they're going to be worth a lot more in game based on what Chris had said. We're nuts if we don't get big ships and work down.
I think that's the other part of it. You can't ever look at one piece of information. It is literally stacking multiple pieces of information together. And that's why so many people kind of essentially miss the mark on their content.
And that's why what you're doing at the moment, like in terms of finding out what's going on and going back to the beginning and watching those videos is this type of thing that actually makes you go, that's what's happening. That's why that's the case. I will say, the way you help with that great, awesome, fantastic race, the Crux Cup. The very first Crux Cup was on April 25th, 2015.
Wow. Okay.
Planned in 2014, but
that's
April
incredible.
25th.
Like again, it's just that thing where like. It is pretty incredible that.
Thank you for the raid, Astro Otter.
Astro Otter. Yeah, Astro Otter. Such a lovely chap, Astro Otter. I do think it is incredible how people have been there so early, but I also kind of feel that I think we all have this like different idea of what we're looking for. And there is like a split in the player base as far as what we're looking for, in my opinion. I think it is going to be, like you said, a shock for people to realize that a lot of their, funding and, of course, things in Squadron will bleed into the PU and things will move over and developers will move over and et cetera, et cetera. I get it. It's understandable. I think some people are going to get maybe a little bit of a shock about how much has been used for Squadron. And I think a lot of people are going to be sitting here in my shoes thinking like, well, I paid, you know, X amount of thousands for this experience. I'm going to be excited to play Squadron. Squadron's going to be fun. It's going to be a thing that we're all going to enjoy as backers who are going to spend time and continue to play in the persistent universe. You know,
I'm just reading,
because that's where we all hang out. So that's where we chill, right?
I'm just reading comments by Jericho85 in Twitch, and I think he's one of those people that would really benefit from seeing that episode of the scheduling Algared.
You mean the whale episode?
Yeah. Just the way he's talking, I think they need to redo one of those again.
I think we just need to pick up a link and show it.
Well, if someone has, no, I don't want to get copyright struck or whatever. That always happens when we play.
No, I'm not saying show it. I'm just meaning put the link up.
Yeah,
and even show the picture of the.
If someone's got it, then send it through to me, and we'll do so. But long story short, Jericho, they literally in this episode they go through scheduling on how they plan out to make a space whale. They ask a whole bunch of questions, and the community realizes very quickly it balloons out of control because humans are a finite resource. And again, this whole time they've been working on Squadron. They haven't been working on Star Citizen. Now, as we round the corner and edge to release of Squadron, you're seeing very quickly the reports are moving from Squadron to talking a lot more about Star Citizen.
Yeah.
Right? So this whole thing about why don't they fix the game, they don't have enough people to go around. And now they are moving it over. You'll start to see things. Oh, look at the last patch. It was all fucking quality of life.
Yep.
All of it.
Yep. Well, you look at the staffing. They've still got 30 or 40 job offers.
Yep.
In their career
every
section.
time.
They've got 1,000 staff every month. It doesn't change.
Yeah. Hey, Jericho, why are you working as Cloud Imperium, huh? Why are you a little corporate shill slave, huh? Because you don't know how to make games. They don't grow on trees. That's just it. It's a finite resource.
It is cool that we're in this. It is cool that we're in this like kind of positive phase of like stuff actually getting actioned, and we see so much things happening and changes. But it is unfortunate. In my feeling, it's unfortunate that it's come at the back end of like years of just kind of keeping it ticking on by to keep the funding coming in and keep that. And that's where the bad taste has been left in, I think, so many people's mouths internationally, no matter how you look at it, right?
Yeah, and lots of people have been looking and saying, oh, we want the other systems and we want the other planets and solar systems in game, and we've got 100. The reason that backers like Paul, Execute, myself, talk about the line 5 is because Chris said in one of the 10th of the chairman, I always envisaged there would be 5 planets to start.
Yeah.
Now, once he said that, we went, okay, we're in Stanton. That's system number 1. But always said Pyro would be system number 2.
Yeah.
That's 2. And so you actually started seeing backers working out, okay, based on the star map, which are the 5 most logical planets. We also know one of them is, I think, the Oberon system where Squadron 42 takes place. And so that's 3 of our 5. Orion. So you actually just draw your lines along to those systems where you go, they're the systems in the first 5 that Chris was planning for.
I've got to talk to you in private.
The whole link to that.
I've got to talk to you in private later.
It is amazing.
I've actually got an update to that, but I've got to go with you.
But the whole link to that.
Remind me.
The whole key to that was to get that working was server meshing. That was the big mountain.
This one solar. It was funny when I saw in the video, like on the map, and they zoomed out, and we're gonna have all these systems and whatever. The comment I made to everybody who was watching, I was like, "Wow, isn't it incredible how in 10 years how much entertainment we've managed to get out of one system?
Yep.
Imagine having." 1 more, 2 more,
10 more years. 10 more. No.
But imagine we're going between Microtech, Hurston, ArcCorp, and a couple of stations here and there, and we are just loving life, flying around, enjoying. Nothing to see on the planets, but we're still having a good time.
You remember what was the very first planet we had?
Just a gas ball. that you couldn't go to.
Gas ball, the gas giant. You couldn't go to. You'd fly down and die in the gas. Olisar. I think the first station we had was Levski, which was pulled in from one of the other systems and an extra asteroid belt. And that was it, you know. Then we got the next one was
They talk about it all the time, by the way.
No, we had the moon.
All the time.
We had the moons first. So we had Daymar, Selen, and
so
Yella.
we had the moons of and then the next planet we got was came
Levski.
in was ArcCorp, and you could fly there, but you couldn't do anything.
Levski,
I saw ArcCorp. I saw it with a G-lock bar in the middle of the big circle thing.
Oh, no.
Well, you mentioned it.
Everything was around the one place.
You mentioned it. It was the social module where it first came in. So
social module,
The very first time you could fly to ArcCorp, you couldn't do anything. It was just like the planet. It was just a ball.
Microtech was the same too, and Hurston. They were just balls that you could fly to. And I remember getting in game and flying like 20 minutes to get there and go, oh, this is a nice ball, and then flying back for another 20 minutes. And that was all you could do.
That was all you could do.
Yeah.
It was amazing how much you could do in that first build. That 0.3 or 0.4, I think I saw them showing off, and it was amazing how much. Like Correa was there, the repair station, the drones were amazing. I want the drones.
We still
They look cool.
We still there were amazing moments that Algared and I shared, right, and other people shared. Like the one I will remember, still one of the biggest ones for me, was the walking up the steps of Port Alisar after you came outside the airlock that first time, and you walked onto the pads, and there's just the sheer scale. But I see that now in other ways in new players, right? That when the scale hits them, that is still one of the biggest things I try to show people to this day when I'm showing.
And that's what things like Invictus actually show. I can remember showing one of my nephews Star Citizen during an Invictus. We walked up a ramp, and the first ship he saw was a reclaimer sitting at the far end, and he was like gobsmacked. And he said, and I said, "Oh, that's a ship." And he said, "Look at that." And I said, "Yeah, that's one of the ships." And I said, "That's not the biggest ship." It was like, what? And then as we walked around and looked at the different ships, he was just absolutely blown away. And then the fact we got into ships, and I said, "Oh, you can get in those ships and walk around even while you're flying, and then hop off and walk around." And he said, "What about loading screens?" I said, "No loading screen. You're flying a ship, you get out." And I said, "The way you see your loading screen is actually the quantum drive. That's as you're flying in that kind of cloud. That's your loading screen. It's getting rid of the old stuff and loading the new stuff in."
I tell you what, the old interface looked cool, guys. That was cool to see, and the Connie had like how many iterations, but now the Connie looks exactly how it did 10 years ago or something.
It'll get.
I was like, I'm flying a classic.
Can you imagine what it's going to be like, though? Right, we're seeing those animations coming into Squadron where you press a button and your character reaches out and smacks the panel, or it reaches out and can you imagine that in every ship in the game now? So you get into your X ship, whatever it is, and your character's doing this shit, and it's going to be nuts.
And that's the type of stuff Chris liked in. Like, that's not new. That in terms of Chris's desire, that's what Chris wanted from Wing Commander. You'd turn your handle and you'd see your pilot twist his arm or do something. I can remember hearing Chris talk about that in a 10th of a chairman. At least I think it was 10th of a. Look
how far they went to get the actual camera in the eyes, not in the chest. That was a mega undertaking. Do you remember that, Algared? So the animations they use for first person is the same as third. And if you look at other games, they cheat. They have two separate animations, and depending on what you're viewing on, is the one it plays.
Yeah, we've drained my my earbuds.
He's back.
So I'm sorry if you get an echo.
Hear that?
No, it sounds
she
great.
She said you sound good.
It gets better.
You're in. You're in.
The less and less work, the better it sounds. I don't understand this.
Yeah, you guys are quieter, so it's a bit harder to hear you.
Yeah, he'll cut us off a little more, but that's fine.
So I one last little tidbit about my little jaunt down memory lane yesterday, which I found funny, was Jake came into the chat, and they I mentioned that it was really cool to see Chris sitting behind the computer actually coding. I would love to see that now. I would love to see Chris coding. Does he still sit there in front of his little computer with his 2 graphics cards and still type away at the screen and code things? And Jake said, yeah, he still does that. He still does that from time to time. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Sandy
said that Chris will often do that at night.
Yeah. When
sit there and code.
Oh.
What was the system that I think the last one he specifically talked about him personally working on was the cloth and clothes.
That's the one I remember.
Yeah, he was working on the cloth and how it curved around the body and stuff. So he actually did that specifically.
Yeah, that was just something he liked doing. He loves coding. He's a programmer at heart. He loves coding.
Yeah, he obviously can't do the big jobs anymore because he does a lot of the the kind of running of the company type stuff. But
the other thing that pulls into Sandy's value in Star Citizen is she looked at the way customer service worked back in the day, and she went, "This sucks. This is crap." And basically, Chris said, "Well, that's how it's always been done in gaming," and everyone else says, "That's how it's always been done in gaming." And Sandy said, "No, it's not good enough." And so she pushed for the idea of actually having almost that personalised touch of customer service. And she trained up Chelsea and Alexa as the first 2 customer service reps back in the day, and she was often doing that as well. I think that's actually how I first made my contact with Sandy, was via the customer service, and then at PAX 2014.
It's a sad thing that neither of those girls work there anymore. But again, that's just another tale of how long this game's been going. Like, if I started to draw a list of the people that have come and gone, it'd be quite a freaking big list at this point. And that's just the ones we saw on camera, not the ones that we saw that are kind of out of sight, out of mind. Just the ones on camera.
Yeah, just the ones on camera that have gone.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting for you guys to say this, because the more I've played this version of Star Citizen, or this patch, I start to see a different game. Like, and not always in a bad way, but I look at like the Horizon platform and the interior of the Caterpillar, and I see these absolute love letters to sci-fi, and somebody putting so much time and effort and detail, and and then I see some of the new stuff and some of the changes, and I think, oh, these feel like this feels different. This feels like a different group, or a different mentality, or something's changed.
The Razor Crest from Mandalorian was designed by the same guy who designed the Cutlass.
And the
so
Reliant
cool.
and the Reliant that you were in last night as well.
And then you've got
awesome.
And you've got guys who were graphic designers and designed the ships like from Star Wars, from other areas of Star Wars, or even the Defiant from Star Trek. They've actually designed a lot of the early ships as well.
The guy that worked on
ships,
the Iron Man suit and Jarvis and stuff, he also worked as the head of the character team for a while. So yeah, they've had people from all over.
So guy, some of the concept artists who designed the looks of the ships were guys who designed ships for Star Wars and Star Trek and other sci-fi games. So you're right, it is a love letter to sci-fi, and the difference is, some of them say, the difference is when I was designing for X, I could use movie magic and have the parts hidden. But in this game, because all the parts have to be there, the landing gear has to actually fold up and come out. It changes the way I design the ship.
Yeah. But the Buccaneer is probably the most obvious one there, wouldn't it be, Algared? So yeah.
But do you think that the work? Do you think that they're just trying to get it done now? Do you think it's like a bit of a sigh of relief? We just want to get it done.
Do you remember?
Do you remember a couple of forced to get it done, or do you think they can take more time? Do you think they can take time?
So they're forced because it's got to be out by Q1 next year. according to legal documents, right? So that's why we know they're getting ready for a launch, because they have to be. It's just whether does it come then or right at the end. So it's got to. So our bet, and this is the bet that me and Algared are always having and going forwards in the moment. Is it CitizenCon, or is it the end of Q1, which would essentially make it January, February, March? So it'll be March next year. That's the window. October to March.
And I think the plan is, the goal is CitizenCon, but whether they make that goal, you set your plan, you set your target, and then if you make it, you make it, and if you don't.
Even you and I have gone back on this, though, Algared, haven't we? We were like, what if it's PC at CitizenCon and console later on? Like we've had many different things.
I think people who think Squadron's not going to go to console are nuts. I think it will.
Yeah.
When it comes out, I don't know, but 100% I think it's coming to console.
As for the part you're saying about kind of seeing, like, is it a focus to get it out the door? Yes, because a couple of years ago they talked about not putting assets into Star Citizen, making sure they're finished in Squadron, and then they'll do the big rollover, which was the patch that we just had. That was what, 2.5 years ago now. That was a call to me. They just want to get this thing out the door. They just want to get it done. All hands on deck. And we also heard reports that Star Citizen fell down to a skeleton crew. I heard reports that it was down to about a dozen people working on it at one point.
But when we're talking about like new ships coming out, like the Polaris and stuff like this, and we start to see the interiors and the work that goes on, etc., do you imagine that would you guys be happy with the 10 years ago guys, 12 years ago guys? Would you guys be happy if, when Squadron's said and done, and you guys are also moving into the PU, and you're happy to focus on the PU now as the primary goal and the primary funding model and the primary future for Star Citizen, are you happy for them to take the extra time to make these things as good as they possibly can be? Or
I've always been happy for them to take the extra time.
Yeah, same.
Right.
I think the other thing is it's not going to be the primary. I think it's now going to be a shared focus. I tried to get onto that before, because you've still got more episodes to go. So it's almost like a 50-50 split. You have this, now we've got single player game. Because once you have a single player game, generally design falls into a rule of thirds, right? And I've been over this with Algared, but you essentially have a third old, a third modified, and a third new, right? That's a generalistic rule when it comes to sequels. Right, so they'll probably try to do that with episode 2. Again, that's why we're seeing things like the Polaris going in, because they want a new ship.
And we know they're doing we know they want to do expansions. We know that at some point they want or would like, or certainly a lot of people would like to see them do aliens. I know Jake, if I recall correctly, would love to see Tavaran as a player race. And I think the Tavaran makes sense as the first alien we'll see in terms of playable, because in terms of the lore, they've been absorbed into UEE, so you wouldn't have to worry about, I'm an alien, I don't know my history. As a Tavaran, you're a UEE, but you don't know your history because of the Purge, but basically wiped most of it, and so finding your history and your place actually becomes part of your character adventure.
But do you not see that now as more of a stretch goal now? Like, as far as like funding, you have to stretch that out now,
just
right?
Real
to
quick,
get there.
Just real quick before it's lost. Just a Riot, an Aussie streamer just said, one thing I love about Star Citizen's development is, even though it can be frustrating, a lot of the time we're always getting new updates. And that's how I've always looked at it. As long as they're making progress, I was never complaining. They were always, like, if something went wrong, they didn't like to tell us, but they would tell us anyway. Like what happened with iCache and shit like that. Anyway, sorry, Expat. Trying to go back
no, but just to try and like kind of flesh that question out is that, it's taken this long, and for whatever reason, the delays and the tech and the rework and the engine and whatever it may be, and COVID, as you mentioned.
Yep.
Like, because of that time stretch, it's taken all these things that would have been earlier, and maybe would have had, more of the early money to deal with.
Yep.
do you feel like a lot of this kind of stuff gets pushed so further into the future that it almost becomes like another stretch goal, like almost like we're currently living in a constant Kickstarter where we know what the goals are. It's just about funding to them, right? So we the aliens, the extra ships, the Krakens, the etc.
It'll scale to its success. Is the answer you're looking for?
We've got our galaxy, or the 100 planets, which includes the Xi'an planets, the Vandal planets, the Banu planets, and the human planets.
And you'll notice if you look on the star map, it just hits the edge of all those, doesn't it, Algared? Almost like there's a hint there might be more coming.
So we're not going to be accessing. I don't think planets. We're not going to get the planets that are in Xi'an space until they're ready to give us a Xi'an.
Just like their vehicles,
that's characters we see around.
That's why we only have a sampling.
But we need to get there in time, right? So we need to get there in time. So what I'm saying is like obviously every year the company needs to stay active, alive, funded, etc., to achieve all these things, because those things, like you said, it can only, they've got so many developers and there's so many specialists, and they can only work on something at a time. So, what I'm just curious, like, how long do you think it would take to get into, system 4, system 5, system 6? You know what I mean? Like,
I think,
what do you think?
So the initial plan is 5 systems, and then they'll expand from there.
And I think once they get
sorry, but that talk that they've been having recently about 1.0, it is how quickly they can essentially get those first systems.
And it all inches the whole like if people think they haven't been working on those other planets and other systems behind the scenes while they're going, they're nuts. I think they've already been working on planets, and some of them are fairly empty in comparison. But the key thing that limits it is server meshing. The second they can get back and successive continual jumps between systems, the second we can get that, the second we've got stable between systems set up, do you think they're only going to be able to do that to
server mesh is not going to be a light switch either. I think you're going to have to give them a bit of time to massage that into place. Like they're saying that they think they can go pretty quickly from static to dynamic, but I don't think it's just going to be a thing they flick on and it works like that. I could be completely wrong, but I've got a feeling it's going to take them, I don't know, anywhere from a month to 12 months to kind of iron the edges out a bit, And
then you've got to remember, they're saying, based on what we can see at the moment, we don't think it's going to be that hard. But I can remember them in the past saying, this is not going to take us that long.
Yeah.
And it took them years. They said, this bit here, this thing here is going to take us this long. And then as they started work on it, they went, this is ending up being
can of worms. They just opened and went, shit, way bigger than I thought it was going to be. And they had
it's a Pandora's box. Close it.
And then the other, it's like when I mentioned iCache, that was another thing. That was a failure, but they had to learn. They had to do that to learn how not to do server meshing, essentially, right? So there is an R&D element to it. And again, we've seen them do like you would have seen this yourself in when they when they do the jump points and stuff, expat, and they'll do all the little silhouettes of all the ships. That is R&D of how not to make that said ship. You are doing all of that out to perfect a design. It is no different no matter what you're doing. Think about all the movies that are made. You make TV commercials. How much bloody film hits the cutting room floor?
Yeah. Oh, I guess the idea, which I think, I guess the hope anyway is that like the future kind of like snowballs as far as all eyes go onto it. A lot of resources, although you did say it was split, with the future Squadron updates. But the technology in the development side of things, as far as like Rastar and these building technologies and how to multiply planets and multiply assets. And I guess this is what made this last SitCon really good, was seeing how they've developed the technology to kind of do these things.
I think also,
I guess Pyro's still not out, right? And Pyro's still taking a lot of time. So, you know, do you think that's going to be for like every system? It's going to be like
What I really liked about this CitizenCon, or the last CitizenCon, was they started off and said, "This is what we've done," and they talked about the tech or where the progress was, and then every panel after that kind of expanded on each. This is the tech. This is where we're going. And they showed us the tech they've been working on and the implication of that. That was the biggest bonus, I think, of CitizenCon last year.
I think another boon for Squadron 42 is once you actually have a game that's out and shipped, and the quality of it, and none of this it's a scam shit, I think more developers may come along. They may want to actually join the company and go, oh shit, this is what they've been doing. I also know, because I've heard from other developers as well, is that there are people that have left CIG with the knowledge of things that they've learned. And I mean like tech that is not used in other places, like and they've applied it elsewhere. So there's a trickle down thing to this, right? And we're already seeing the tech appear in other games. So just the idea of server meshing has already appeared in other games, right? Yeah. The one that I keep thinking of is how textures work in Star Citizen. They worked out how to do multiple maps and lay them over each other. That's why when you zoom in really close, you get this really high quality texture, because what it is they have a repeatable texture overlaid over the top of what is a normal texture. So when you kind of zoom in, that pattern makes it look way more detailed than it is. And you can look at anything and you'll notice that it's usually a repetitive, like a small, high quality repetitive pattern.
You saw that when they were talking about the way ships flying over water work, and the water spray. You came in really close and it was really good, and then further back you just saw that.
Lods.
That's right.
Yeah. A little bit of detail. Yeah. And
you know,
what he's talking about? Do you remember?
I raided in and totally hijacked your whatever your thing was.
It's totally fine.
What were you talking about today?
We were just doing questions, but I think I don't know. I found this really cool. Well, I wish I could. Maybe I retitled this to a trip down memory lane, because that's kind of what it's felt like. And it is good. It is good every once in a while to look back to understand where we got to, where we're at now.
I always feel this way. Like during these like holiday things or these like Invictus things and stuff like that. Like I feel like it brings out the remember this, remember that, remember your,
Yeah, but again, like I think the thing that you highlighted for me, and Algared, you correct me if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you have not been here as long as us. So I'm now thinking, what about all the people that came in Invictus that are also in your shoes, right? Did they get anything out of what we've talked about today? Because that's kind of where I go.
Yeah, and well, did your community
understand? Like,
did your community actually get that feeling?
Well, I mean, like a lot of people, the thing is that like I've had bleed over even from like say like Summit's community and stuff like that. Some of the people that came in with like Summit 1G, for example, you know, who ultimately ended up staying quite a lot for you know, he started like playing other games now, and he's actually left behind a lot of people that actually really liked this whole thing, you know, and they can see the potential and they want to, you know, they're interested in it and they got into it and they just bought a ship and stuff. So there is a lot of people even from there who, you know, maybe day one, maybe day two was, you know, it's a scam. And now, you know, they're in our chats, they're in your chat, they're in other people's chats, you know, actually trying to engage with the community for the first time. And they don't know any of this, you know, they don't know any of the history. They don't know any of where it's come from. And it feels a bit like the last couple of years, at least it's been like almost like starting again, you know, let's start again. Let's change up the office is new. The set on ISC is new. Everything is new now. Right. And maybe that's a good thing, right?
Isn't it just more of getting? Isn't it just more of getting ready for release, bringing things to a professional level and stuff like that? I don't know. That's what it was. So, can I just say real quick? I think Scatterbro titled it correctly, because I titled this stream "Another Threat Approaches," as in Xeno threat, and then he's gone ... expat raids the stream. Perfect. Perfect. She's the threat. Big threat. Yeah. Anyway.
But to go back to the idea of the impact of Squadron and how much that'll impact the game and that, if it doesn't work, what CIG will do, ultimately I think it bodes ill for the PU. Will they develop the PU? Yeah, but it'll also mean they'll scale back.
Yeah.
So instead of having a studio of 1,000 employees, they'll drop down to a studio of, I don't know.
I almost wonder if they'll go the other way, Algared, and they'll just add more people. Because then they can get more done. Well, as long as the money's there, right? Money talks, right?
Yeah.
So if they are funded exceptionally well, they would get more people so they can pop out more content more sooner and make even more money. But then again, if they're not getting as much money, then they'll scale back. I think whatever happens there tells us how.
I'm saying, if it doesn't go well.
Let me just finish.
If it doesn't go well, then they'll scale back. If it goes really well, would you say they'll scale up and they'll put more out?
So we're on the same page. So however that goes is telling of how it went. Yeah.
Mm.
What do you guys? So you guys have been in this a long time, as we know. But what do you guys want new players to know about Star Citizen today, and what you think? What should they look out for? What should they look forward to? How committed should they be to the project at the moment? Should they wait a little bit? Should they, how should they look at this project from how do you guys feel about it today? Like, if you were to come here fresh, kind of fresh, how would you look at this project? Would it be, would you encourage them to look back at the past as a warning, or a this is how things could be at times? Sometimes it gets like this, sometimes it gets like it. What kind of things do you want them to think about for the coming year and couple of years that they might be in this thing?
I think it's about to change. I think once Squadron's out, it is going to change a bit. If I gave you information right now, that would be different to what comes with Squadron.
Yeah, and I think if you look back to things we said 10 years ago about ships, they're probably different from what they are now. The overall theme of where things are going, I don't think has changed.
No.
But what we see may have changed. And it's a bit weird to say it like that. But if I was talking to anyone who was saying, oh, look, I want to get into the game, what should I do? I'd just say, get a starter pack. Just get a base ship, get a cheap ship with a game attached, and just enjoy the game. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
And would you say that like, do you think that it's good for you guys to maybe be more forward about the idea that, Squadron is, until Squadron comes out, don't think that you're funding the PU? Because that was an interesting thing that came up today, and it's still at the back of my mind, but I never say that. When anyone comes in my chat and says, hey, I'm thinking about getting into Star Citizen, what should I buy? What's a really good ship and stuff like that? I never think about saying, okay, I never mention Squadron. I keep forgetting to mention Squadron, right? It doesn't even cross my mind.
Well, it's hard at the moment because you can't actually buy Squadron. So that makes it a bit harder. And so if people are saying, oh, what should I get? Just say, get a starter pack. Get a base pack. But be aware, the single-player game is coming out soon, and you're going to want that. Just for the start quality. Look how people lost their crap over Nicolas Cage in, Cyberpunk. People lost their crap over him being in that movie, in that game, and being the avatar that took you through.
Yeah.
And then look at the number, and then
they would have lost their crap if it wasn't, Nicolas Cage. I believe it was Keanu Reeves. But very close.
Sorry.
Very close.
Keanu Reeves. Sorry.
They all look the same to Algared. They all look the same. Yeah.
They all look the same. That's right. But you look at Squadron 42. And the number of stars there. I can remember seeing a video where he was talking about being in the green suit.
Yeah. And
I'm thinking, yeah, we saw that for Squadron, 5 years ago. Yeah, nothing new. nothing to see here.
Do you know,
it literally was that feeling.
Do you know I had a...
And we saw that with multiple stars.
I had a behind-the-scenes video for Squadron 42, come up with her in the mocap suits literally last week on my feed, and it said 8 years ago.
Yeah. And you were seeing that just, Cyberpunk like last year or 2 years ago. It was that. Yeah, seen it, been there, done that, and not just with one star, but for multiple stars.
Yeah.
And then, the interviews with, Gary Oldman, John Rhys Davies, Mark Hamill, just as they talked about it, the stories about Gary Oldman giving his speech, and literally he was just practicing his speech on the studio floor, and literally everyone stopped. He held them spellbound. That's just.
But do you think that the people that are pledging new money today, right? Do you think that they're pledging for the future at this point, or do you still consider it to be the linked games?
Let me put it back at you then in an interesting way. What can you see right now as a new player? And I would argue that what most people see is the PU. Isn't that what they're pledging for?
Yeah. I think so.
And the simple fact you can't buy Squadron.
Yet the money is going to Squadron, and you can't buy Squadron. True, that's a good point.
You can't buy Squadron, so you're backing for the PU, but
you just got to understand. Yeah. Sorry, it just comes back to that fund. It comes back to the funding, though, doesn't it, Algared? Like how many people have you and I? How many of you people, like, seriously, it must be in the hundreds now, you and I have sat down people and had to explain why Squadron is coming before Star Citizen.
Yeah. But it's also a hard thing to get people to fathom that both these games are intertwined. They are, in effect, you're not just, if the money goes to support Squadron, it's not, my game gets no benefit. Why are they supporting this other game when, I'm supporting this one? Well, you support Squadron, you're supporting the PU. You support the PU, you're supporting Squadron. Yep. There's that much overlap between what they're doing. You get the tools for building on one. You get the building tools that they use to build stuff in the PU. That works on Squadron. You get stuff they used in the PU in Squadron. It works on the PU, and it's just there's that crossover. And I don't think there's really a difference in where your funding goes, whether you funded primarily for Squadron or the PU. My usual comment to people is when they say, I didn't fund for Squadron, I funded for the PU, is no, you funded for both. You did fund for Squadron, whether you realise it or not, but funding that is also funding the PU and vice versa.
Well, I hope that we're all, ultimately we're all funding for the Krakens. I hope we're funding for the Krakens, because I want to see the Kraken. I want to see the people get their Kraken.
I want to see the Javelin, personally. But,
I want to see the Javelin. I want to see those people. I want to see those people spawning their Javelins and their Krakens and actually having that universe.
I just wonder where we can do bowling with Krakens or Javelins. Like we used to do with the old guys, and we used to go to Olisar and set up, caterpillars as pins or redeemers as pins, and then bowl a flyer Starfarer into them, turning off the engines and jumping out of the ship before it hit, and then because all the engines were off, they didn't blow up. They used to just spiral out of the way back in the early days, and so you could do 10-pin bowling. Yeah. But
wow.
But yeah, I figured another name for this this show. It's expat interviews Inforunners.
It is kind of, but like I'm just coming at it from like, I'm still learning. Like 3 years in, I'm still learning.
Yeah,
we're still learning.
I'm still finding.
We're still learning.
Because I'm always challenging myself and challenged by the mental.
I've got to stop. Sorry, expat. I've got to stop.
That is Star Citizen.
I'm about to have a bipolar. I've been triggered. I'm about to have a bipolar panic attack. I need to get the fuck out of here.
Oh my.
Right? So I need to go. I'm sorry, but a couple of things people said in chat have just really set me off.
And besides, it is 9:09 and you're dying.
No, I'm struggling. I need to get out of here. I'm a panic
and
attack.
my voice is going as well. So it is time for us to actually say
thank you for joining us, Expat. It was very wonderful having you. I appreciate you being here. And I'm sorry that I have to cut this short. I would have liked to continue, but if I don't get out of here, I'm gonna start raging like crazy. So I need to move.
See, I just rage. I just rage.
Oh,
you don't want him to rage.
Algared is one of the few people that have seen the arsehole that I can become, and I need to get out of here.
Well, execute. Yeah. Go get some noodles and go have a fun time. And it's been a pleasure, guys. And I'm glad I raided, and I'm glad I took over your channel.
It's all right. So we're gonna raid out to Zero State. Zero State has just started.
But we will deal with those questions probably at another time. I'm not sure how we're going to deal with those questions in a.
Algared's going to personally write a letter and do them all, one after the other. Yeah, there we go.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah. Maybe we do it. Maybe we do a taped episode where we just go through the questions from today and do them as quickly as we can.
I did want to do again. If we do one tomorrow, Algared, the one I wanted to do with you was Ironclad versus Caterpillar. I think it's something that a lot of I've seen all these other ones, but I've not seen the other one. I wanted to pitch it was was what does it tread on? Because there are so many ships those two variants tread on. Yeah. All right.
No.
I can already feel the sweats coming on. I need to get out of here. All right.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Yes. These guys are awesome. Respect them. Enjoy their content. They're here for you. Yep. And trust me, I watch them all the time and I learn stuff all the time. And it's very much worth tuning in again for another exciting episode of the Inforunners with Execute and Algared, the two most informative dudes in the Star Citizen universe. Yeah, you rock, guys.
You're a hype man.
And your community is awesome too.
Golly gosh, gee whiz.
All right, then. Make sure you say hello to Zero State for us. Again, thank you for joining us, Expat. Where can people find you on the interwebs? Just let people know before we go.
Oh, just see me around Twitch. You'll see me. You'll see me, guys. Just go to Twitch.
All right, YouTube said goodbye to Twitch. Twitch said goodbye to YouTube, and they're gone.
Bye, Twitch.
Cool. All right, with that, then don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and thank you to everyone that went the extra mile at the end of the video on Patreon. I really have to get out of here. Right. Other than that, thank you for joining us, Expat. He's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care. God bless.
See you, citizens.